Good morning and welcome to our 108th weekly webcast. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. And so the way the call works is this is an AMA, meaning ask me anything. You can ask me business questions, you can ask me personal questions, you can ask me career questions, etc. And the call is 3 hours long. And when the call ends at 11 a.m. San Francisco time, what my team does, whoops, hold on a second here. I forgot to hit mute there. Can you believe this? 108 weeks in a row and I still make mistakes. So within 3 hours of this call being completed, what my team does is they enter all the questions in along with the time that they were asked, and they put it in the description field. So what you can do is all you have to do is go to the YouTube description and click on the question and get immediate access to the answer. So thank you. Now, if you haven't checked out our MBA degree program, please do so. You can go to my website, which is harouneducation.com. Here we go, right here. Or harounventures.com, same thing. Scroll down and learn more details about the programs. And so early admission date is passed already. However, if you want to apply for regular admission, you can look here and see that the deadline is November 30th. And if you have questions about the MBA degree program, please let me know. And thank you as always. All right, let's get to questions. All right, the first question is from Ray. Ray is saying, hi, Chris. Hey, Ray. Hope you're doing well, man. How should I react to those people who want to connect over LinkedIn with me, but they don't write anything? Should I ask them how I can help them? Yeah. So I accept every single connection I get, except if somebody puts a message and is trying to sell me something, or they've messaged me a bunch of times, trying to oversell a product. So I usually accept just everybody. Now, I think I have about 27,000 LinkedIn contacts right as of now. And I think once you get to 30 or so, what happens is you actually have to you can't take any more contacts, but you can only follow people. So that's what I would say. In terms of blocking people on LinkedIn, and I'm looking at LinkedIn right now. Yeah, 27,286 followers. In terms of blocking people, you can do that as well. You know, if you get somebody that's harassing you or is trying to send you a gazillion messages to sell a product, etc., or they're rude, whatever it is, you can block them. I've done that before. I rarely do it, but you can do that. And if you have additional questions, please let me know, and thank you. Next question is, what do you think is better, speed reading or listening to a book summary? Yeah. So I prefer listening to books. I subscribe to audible.com. I'm not sponsored by them. I'll never be sponsored by anybody. I'm not going to sell out. But you pay $15 a month and you get access to a couple of free books every single month. And I think that we're just too busy to sit down and spend a couple days reading a book these days. So what I like to do is I like to multitask. I like to go for a walk or exercise while I'm listening to an audiobook. And I do like the summaries better. Now, in terms of speed reading, what I do when I speed read, which is rare these days, I would go and read a biography or an autobiography of somebody that really inspires me. And then what I would do is I would skip everything except for quotes. Those people are when they're quoted. So I look for quotes and skip everything else. Yeah. Okay. Next up is, where can I gather more experience in modeling and valuing companies without working in the financial sector after reading Graham Lynch and taking your course? Yeah, thank you. So what I recommend doing is you can sign up for my MBA degree program. The gold and the platinum versions, I give you hundreds of hours of live Q&A, either over Zoom or over YouTube Live if you want, whatever works for you. That's the gold version. The platinum version is the same thing, except I spend a couple of hours one-on-one with you, either over Zoom, confidential calls, of course, or in person if you happen to be in the Bay Area. And so to take your game to the next level when it comes to creating financial models, I'm more than happy to humbly help as much as I can if you sign up for my MBA degree program. You can always ask me questions too within the courses that you take on Udemy and other platforms in general. Now, I think another great way to get a lot of experience is to listen to earnings calls. Companies in the United States report earnings every 3 months. Overseas, it's usually every 3 months, but some countries like Japan, it's every 6 months. So listen to the earnings calls, and quite often they are translated as well. If you only speak English like me, and I'm having issues speaking English this morning, clearly. But listen to the earnings call, and then what you can do is the companies release a 10K every year, a 10Q every quarter, and an 8K press release whenever there's something material that needs to be announced. And let me show you this. So I'm going to show you two websites for financial modeling. The first one is free. The other one, there's a small fee that Wall Street's in love with right now called BAMSEC, B-A-M-S-E-C. So the first one I'll go to is, let's go to sec.gov. And by law, if you're listed on the public markets in most countries, what you have to do is you have to actually you have to share your financials with the whole world. So let me go to BAMSEC right now while SEC is having issues right now, I think. Oh, here it is here. Okay, load it. Great. All right. So you can type in any ticker. So Disney, for example, right here, the Walt Disney Company. And then what you can do is you can go and read the filings. So here's the 10Q, which is a quarterly report. This is an 8K, and there's a 10K down here as well, which is an annual report. Just keep scrolling the next page, you'll find it. And don't ever invest in a company that just went public without reading first the S1 filing. And you just search for S-1. But when you go to these documents here, you can just get a wealth of information. Not just the qualitative stuff, but you can also get the quantitative stuff like the financial statements. So I would build out your financial model as I explained in my Complete Financial Analyst course. Or what you can do, and I've got a better website than this one. This website here, it's a government website. It's decent, but you can't download data directly into Excel. This is where BAMSEC comes in. And this is a subscription business model. And so what you can do, I think it's $30 a month. You can get a free trial too. So I just typed in the ticker for Apple. Here's a 10K, which means the annual report. And so what this means is I can read through all the risks that Apple has or they've disclosed, and their lawyers make sure they disclose all of them. And then what you can also do is you can actually go down to the financials here. And once you're in the financials, you can download them. So let me search for, I don't know, income statement. The word income. Here we go. Here. So there's a bunch of financial statements here. And as you can see right here, and these are just smaller ones. If you scroll down, there's a ton more. You got the balance sheet, cash flow statement as well. What you can do is you click here and you can download that financial statement directly into Excel, which will save you a lot of time when you're creating financial models. And it's nicely formatted in Excel as well. It's actually, these are real numbers. These are not text fields here. So anyway, I think that's pretty helpful. And if you have additional questions, as always, please let me know, and thank you. All right. Next question is, can I be a freelancer having in mind that I have been a CEO before? Do you think there will still be demand for short-term services? Absolutely. I'd say even more demand. And it's never too late to reinvent yourself. We all get a second chance and a third chance, etc. when it comes to business or technology. Just take online courses. You can take great technology courses online from the likes of Angela Yu or Rob Percival on Udemy, and I'm humbled to help you out as much as I can with my business courses as well, so you can retool. But absolutely, if you're a former CEO, you can definitely get a lot of good consulting gigs. In fact, a lot of CEOs, after they retire, what they do is they join 3 or 4 boards, and that's their salary for the year they get paid if it's a publicly traded company. And so you can do a lot of consulting work that way if you want to. And what I recommend doing is going to a website called Upwork and seeing if you can advertise your services there. Okay, cool. Next up, Ray is saying, thank you for your answers. You're most welcome. Pratik is asking, hey, Chris, hey, hope all is well. I've completed writing my book, and I want to ask you whether I should make it colored or black and white. Yeah. So I would do, I've got one that's color here, and I've got one that's black and white. And by the way, if anybody wants to write a book, I've got a free template that you can download from my website. I don't ask for your email or anything. And it's in this format here, 6 inches by 9 inches. And if you know how to use Microsoft Word in a browser, you can do this for free. You can publish it for free to Amazon Kindle, Amazon Print, as well as audible.com, where you go to acx.com to upload your materials. But let me show you. So if you go to my website, which is harouneducation.com or harounventures.com, same thing, /write book, and make that all lowercase, please. Then what you can do is you can actually download a PDF or a Microsoft document. It looks just like this. And you just fill it in. It's pretty quick. And then there's only one page of instructions. So as the website is loading here, it says service unavailable. Squarespace is down today. I'm so sorry. So Squarespace is where I store my website. They've had issues recently, but it will be back up soon, I promise you. The beauty of doing live calls, eh? So again, that's harouneducation.com /write book. And you can download this template here. It's really, really easy to do. Now, in terms of black and white and color, I did this one here in color, but I'm not using this as a profit driver at all. I give this one away for free, and I sell it at cost anyway. But you can go to my website, harouneducation.com, and you can actually download this book if you want to for free on networking. This one here, which is my best-selling book, this one here is in black and white. And this one is for profit. I make money off of this book. If you make it color, you're not going to break even unless you sell the thing for, well over $20. This one you can break even at less than $10. Okay, and let me actually go and show you now my website. Looks like Squarespace is back up now. All right, so all you do is you go to Haroun Education or harounventures.com, same thing, /all lowercase write book, and you click here, and you could download a document which is the exact same template I used to make this. And there's one page of instructions, and I don't get any kickbacks. I'm not sponsored by anybody, never will. I will never be either. But here's one page of instructions right here. It's really easy. And then if you scroll down, you put your title in where I asked you to put it in. You put a dedication as well. And then what you can do is you put in your content, and then right-click on the table of contents here. And then you can update the field, and then just go to the first page, and all the details are there for you to submit it. Pretty cool. It's easy to do as well. And it's amazing because what you can do is imagine going to a job interview with a book. Not many people do that. So, or if you go to see a potential customer and you bring a book that you've published, and you got to ask yourself, how bad do you want that customer, or how bad do you want that job? So it's easy to do. Check it out. And a lot of my students have published books using my free template. And I pride myself on talking up my students. And I've brought on a ton of their books that they publish using my template over the past 108 weeks on this webcast. Yeah. All right. Next up, I've got a question from Pratik, which is, can I publish a book in both color as well as black and white? No, you have to actually publish them as two different titles that have two different ISBNs, which is the code they use for database lookups. You got to publish to them separately. Yeah. If you want, you can make the Kindle version in color because it's not going to cost you more to make it because it's digital. And then Pratik wrote here, by the way, I will be the first in my school and my family to write a book. Awesome. I love it. And when you're done with it, let me know on this weekly call and I'll buy it. You can't send it to me. I have to support all my students. So congratulations in advance. One thing I recommend, though, is when you're writing a book, you got to set a deadline date for when it's going to be done. And so for me, I'm trying a new angle here. For me, what I did was I told a lot of my friends and family members that I was writing a book, and I told them the date as well. And as I passed that date, they asked me, "So where's your book?" And so it's kind of like a New Year's resolution. If you don't set a deadline date for a New Year's resolution, you'll never follow through. In fact, 90% of people give up on their New Year's resolutions by the third week of January because they don't set a deadline date. So you want to vocalize your goal. In this case, it's writing a book, and also set a deadline date. And I can't wait to read it as well. And thank you. All right, Casey. Casey is saying, hey, Chris, I hope you and your family are doing well. Likewise. Thank you for your interesting weekly webinars. My pleasure. And thank you for being here too. The question is, how is the best way for one to add testimonials received on their LinkedIn page? Testimonials could have been received via email, etc., and they may not be on LinkedIn themselves. Yeah. So what I recommend doing is find the people that wrote those testimonials if you can, and if you feel comfortable doing this, and then ask them to write a recommendation for you on LinkedIn. Aside from that, you can always put it in the subject or the summary field. So let me show you marketing yourself on LinkedIn here. All right, so let's go here go to LinkedIn here. Okay, and let me show you my profile page actually. Let's go to me. That's Chris. All right, and let me do a quick sound check, folks. We're good. Okay, great. So what you can do is you can put it in the summary section here, the about section. That's how we say about in Canada. It's not about Americans. It's about. That's a proper way to say it. So you can put it here if you want to. Now what I've also done is I've put a ton of articles here. And when I was interviewed in various publications, I put it here as just separate interviews. And you can create a document here if you want to. That consists of testimonials, or just put it here in the about section on your profile. And of course, you can always ask people to write recommendations for you. Yeah, and I recommend, if you don't have any work experience, to get at least 5 written recommendations on your profile. It doesn't cost you anything to do it. And you can get it from teachers, from friends of yours, or organizations where you volunteered, etc. So that's if you have no work experience. If you have only a couple of years of work experience, I recommend at least 10 recommendations here. Why 10? Because your competition won't do that. And if you have more than just a couple of years, I think you should have 15 to 20 or so. And a lot of times you write recommendations and people write them back for you, etc. And I have a lot of my students will write them for me as well, which is nice. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next question is, when is payment due for those applying for the gold and platinum programs? Yeah, thanks for asking. So what Casey is referring to is my MBA degree program. So all the dates are listed on my website. So let me go here to Haroun Ventures or Haroun Education Ventures. It all gets forwarded to the same spot. So if you go over here, there's a pretty detailed FAQ right here, pricing and FAQ. Then you've got important dates. You can also get important dates by just doing a mouse over here. Here we go. So let me scroll up a bit and I'll show you. So payment is going to be due, let's see here, December 12th. And we start December 14th. And that's for regular admission. So per this chart here, applications are due for regular admission on November 30th, and then payment is due on the 12th. And when students pay, they've secured their spot. We've already given out a ton of early acceptances as people applied. A lot of people applied, a couple hundred actually, for the early acceptance date back in the summer, and a lot of them have paid as well. And the deadline for that was yesterday. Yeah. Thank you. And if you have additional questions, you can check out the FAQs here or read the student testimonials here if you want to, and click on their LinkedIn profiles. Contact all of them if you want to, or go to my Haroun Education Ventures LinkedIn page and find alumni there and just call any one of them or contact any one of them and ask for their honest feedback, ask for the negatives and the positives too. All right. Manas, how are you? So Manas is saying, good morning, my dear mentor. Good morning to you too, buddy. I hope all is well and you're safe and sound. And I heard about the wildfires on the BBC. So how was your weekend? Yeah. I have an air purifier. It's making a bit of noise in the background there. The air's a lot better where I live right now. I live in a town called Hillsborough, which is right by the San Francisco airport. It was brutal though here a couple weeks ago. The sky was literally orange. Literally, it looked like Mars. And it was a bit tough to breathe. And there's a metric that we go by, and it's all you have to do is you ask your phone, what's the air quality like now? And if it's over 200, which it was for a little while where I live, it's very dangerous. In fact, if it's over 50, it can be a little bit dangerous as well. But right now, it's a lot better, and I'll show you. What's the air quality like now?
The air quality is considered unhealthy for sensitive groups at 103 right now.
Wow. Okay, it must have just picked up then. So that's the air quality in Hillsborough, where I live, zip code 94010. Yeah, well, it must have just picked up. It was 22 days ago when I checked. So I do have the air purifier there. But my heart goes out for those that live 40 minutes or so or an hour or so north of me in Napa Valley, as the fires have just been atrocious there. People have passed away. It's been terrible. It's been terrible. And the genesis for these fires here in the Bay Area was a couple of weeks ago on Sunday morning at 3:30 a.m. We heard brutal thunder and lightning. And I've never seen lightning or heard thunder here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And it was the first time there was a lightning storm since 2005. And what happened was it unfortunately started a lot of fires that way. And we've had issues too, like last year with fires. PG&E, which is the company that hosts all of our electricity or provides it here, they've had issues. And one of the issues, and this happened a couple times, was a squirrel was running across an electrical wire, caught fire, and then fell down, and fires started that way. So, and we do have brownouts here every now and then. They turn the power off for a while, or it just goes out. It's brutal. And so I've got 5 backup battery generators here, so that it won't impact my students or anybody on this free weekly webcast. Yeah. But my thoughts and prayers go out to all those that live up in Napa right now for what they're going through. It's brutal. What a year, man. What a year. All right. And next up, so Manas is saying, so the updates I want to share with you is that the book that I'm writing is still in the final stages. Awesome. And I do hope by next week it'll be on the floors. And believe me, the cover will make you feel good. Awesome. Awesome. I can't wait to see it. And let me know next week when it's published so I can buy it immediately over Amazon and then bring it onto a webcast after I read it. And then Manas is saying, the course I'm making on Udemy is also going quite well. But I had a question, and that is, which form should I give the template in PDF form or in Word form if there are downloadables for students? Yeah, I always do both. And so what I actually do for my MBA degree students is, and I want to be inclusive of everybody because I do have students in every country in the world. And so when I teach, I design for mobile because mobile is the desktop of the future and the future is now. But I also provide 3 different document formats, and I'll show you what this means. And of course, you can take my MBA degree program on a television, a computer, laptop, whatever. But I'll show you what I do. So let me go here to Haroun Education Ventures workbook, and I'm gonna have to log in for this as well. So this is my current gold and platinum students. Let me just log in here. You weren't looking, were you? It's not that I don't trust you. Just kidding. Okay. So all of my workbooks for every single class, and this is for the current class, and they're the Golden MBA product for them ends this December. And then the new class starts December 14th. But I put everything in 3 different formats, PDF, Word, and Google Docs. It's so easy if you write a Microsoft Word document to immediately convert it into Google Docs as well as into PDF format. So for every single class, it goes on and on and on. I do this. And so I find that more students use Google Docs than the other versions here, right? And then what they can do is they can just make a copy of this if they want to and put it in their Google Drive. And the PDF version, I have it set up so it works with all PDF readers. And it's clickable as well. And I've had a lot of fun with this. And Microsoft Word, of course, is the most intuitive one to set up. I've gotten to, I know how to use Adobe PDF Writer quite well now. I've made so many mistakes over the years, that's why. But it's very, very powerful. Very powerful, yeah. And fun to use as well. I love software. Okay. All right. Next up, Manas is asking, what was your response on the Trump-Biden debate? Who impressed you more and why? Wow. Okay. This is a tough one. And I love Trevor Noah's response too, saying that you next time you need like a UFC referee to be there. It was a disaster, man. It really was, on both sides. It really was. A lot of yelling occurred. It reminds me of that. I hate to say this, but that Fox News program on HBO or Showtime called The Loudest Voice. You know, it's just the issues weren't really discussed properly. It was just a lot of name calling, a lot of bullying, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think either impressed me. Well, one impressed me a little bit more than the other one. I'm not going to tell you which one though. Yeah, but I think there's two more debates now as well. Yeah, but it was stressful to watch, man. Like it was, and the moderator. I mean, his name is Chris, like me. He did a decent job, but I think he could be a little bit more direct as well. And there has to be a little bit more accountability to the extent that I think that microphones should be muted the second their time is up. And they have to raise their hand to speak. Yeah. Okay. Or as my teacher used to say to me, Chris, mouth closed, ears open. Next question is, I have some problems with the financial analyst course. Whenever I try to copy the raw data from the portfolio, I'm only allowed to copy one column, and I use a PC. Any suggestions on that? Yeah. It should work. It should work. What I would do is ask within the course, and then I promise you I'll get back to you right away. Thanks. Next question is from Manas. My last question for today. Ask as many questions as you want, please. This is your time. My last question for today was your bunk bed. You wrote your bunk bed was awesome. So did you put a chair inside the bunk bed when you had a laptop and mic? Yeah, thank you. So in one of my courses, and I believe that one was the financial analyst training course, I wanted to record voiceovers, and I wanted the quality of me showing Excel to work out well without having echoes, etc. And I was visiting my parents up in Mississauga, Canada, and they had a bunk bed where I used to sleep when I was younger. And so what I did was I put a blanket on all sides, and I got down on the bottom. I put a little chair in there as well, and my Blue Yeti microphone, which I have over here. Here's the one I used. And then what I did was that way there was no echo. And so that was a quick and dirty way to improve the quality of the sound that I had in my old bedroom growing up. Yeah. And another way to improve sound is you can put these special sound tiles on the wall or on the ceilings. If you do it on the ceiling, please be careful and staple them in and glue them in as well with Loctite spray adhesive because a fire could emerge if you have something, that has a flame in it, whatever, a candle, etc. Or even consumer electronic products sometimes. Just be really, really careful with that. Yeah. And I also, what I do here is I have wrong pedal, sorry. I have a curtain here set up. And this curtain is really, it's cheap. You can get it on Amazon. It keeps the noise out and the light as well. This works really well. And if you're having material issues with sound quality, what I would say is put more furniture in the room. And what a lot of people do is they actually hang blankets on the wall temporarily. I used to do that as well. So it's kind of like, when you go to an apartment or a house that you're looking at renting or buying, there's an awful echo because there's not much furniture in the room. So that's the easiest way to fix it is with furniture. Yeah. All right. Next question is from Canal, or Canal is saying, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Likewise, hope you're well. And the next question here is from John Lennon. Hey, John, I hope you're doing well. And you wrote here, if you had to choose one career path, what would you choose? Tech or investment banking, or private equity or hedge funds, or the buy side? Yeah. So within finance, the question is, what would you do? Finance or tech? Yeah. I would pick what you're most passionate about, because you'll never reach your full potential in life unless you do what you love doing. And if you do what you love doing and you don't chase it for the money, then not only will you be happier and successful, but the money will come accidentally in the long run. It always does, no matter what anybody tells you, when you're doing something you're passionate about. So do what you love most. Now, the one thing about investment banking, I'm so sorry about that. That was an honest mistake. The one thing about investment banking is that it is brutal on your health and your social life. And a lot of people will become investment bankers, and their friends will be a little bit envious because the investment bankers make more money. But the harsh reality is that people that work in banking, especially at junior levels, they make the same amount of money as anybody else does in other career tracks. They just work an insane number of hours. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And what you do when you're a grunt or you first start out in investment banking is you have to do a lot of photocopying, a lot of PowerPoint slides for proposals, for deals, and then a lot of Excel as well. So there is a lot of administrative work. Every finance student, or almost every finance student I've ever had, wants to become an investment banker, but they don't know why. So before figuring out how to choose a career, ask yourself why. Why do you want to be a banker? Yeah. So I would, if I could do it all over again, I would go right into teaching. I love it. It's my passion. If I had to choose either tech or finance, I love them both, but probably tech, because I'm a nerd and I love programming and working with different hardware products, which I'm not doing well today. Look how crooked that picture is there. I got wires everywhere here too. I tried to do something different today, with a bunch of new angles. Not working out perfectly. And the problem with this screen back here is you could see the glare on most angles here. And the reason, I figured it out. Okay, the reason that angle's not working is because I hung up my shirt there. Hold on one second. This is my uniform usually that I wear to teach, so I'm going to take that off. I mean, you'd think that after 108 weeks of doing this, that I wouldn't have any issues, but clearly I do. Many issues, yeah. But do what you love doing. That's the most important thing I can say to you. Hedge funds, I did that for a while. I worked at a couple of great hedge funds, including Citadel. I started my own. It was too short-term focused. I'm glad I did it in hindsight. And the people I worked with at Citadel were awesome. But it's just too short-term focused for me. I prefer to be longer-term focused. And as Warren Buffett said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. And when I worked at Goldman Sachs years ago, they would always tell me, Chris, you got to be long-term greedy. And I agree with that. So be careful with hedge funds, because if you're too short-term focused, and not all hedge funds are short-term focused. I mean, Citadel is a bit longer-term focused than most. But if you're too short-term focused, you'll end up being fooled by randomness. And it's hard to make money every month, because every month has 20 weekdays, which means 20 trading days. And stocks go up and down for reasons outside of your control, like geopolitical events, saber rattling in the commodity sector between Riyadh and Moscow, or trade war chatter and saber rattling between DC and Beijing. You can't control that stuff. It's hard. Or the stock you're investing in might go up or down a lot because a similar company in the sector might have announced positive or negative news. You got to be very, very long-term focused in order to be incredibly successful when it comes to investing. Yeah. Next question from John is, what do you think blockchain developers, or what do you think of blockchain developer as a career path? I heard demand is growing very fast. What are your thoughts? Yeah. And I have a course called the Complete Cryptocurrency course, which you can check out on my homepage. There's a link there somewhere to the Udemy course. where it's 24 hours long, and I teach you everything you need to know about cryptocurrencies, even if you have no experience at all with tech or finance. And I'm skeptical on the industry. Like when I first started making the course, I was like a 7 out of 10 positive. And then by the end, I was so disgusted. And I'm still bearish. I'm a 3 out of 10. There's 4 or 5 cryptos I own and I'll never ever sell. But there's a lot of fraud that's occurring in that sector. There's a lot of fraud. So if you want to learn how to analyze a cryptocurrency from scratch, I prepared a 49-step research process in my course called the Complete Cryptocurrency course. Yeah. Now, in terms of blockchain and the future, in 5 years, do I think blockchain is going to be more relevant or less relevant? Much more relevant. Much more relevant. And for those of you not familiar with blockchain, it's the process of creating cryptocurrencies or mining them. And there's some blockchains where it's not about mining a crypto or transacting in cryptos, but it's about sharing information in a more secure and transparent way. And that's what the Ethereum cryptocurrency platform is all about. Ether, ETH, is the crypto that trades on that platform. But I'm really bullish on the long-term prospects of blockchain when it comes to increased transparency for elections or any sort of contract. And if you want to learn about, like I'm not a hardcore techie, but if you want to learn about how to make a blockchain, you can go to Udemy's website. And I never get comped, by the way, by mentioning Udemy or anybody else. If my courses suck, many of them do, by the way, then they just won't sell. But go to Udemy's website and do a search on blockchain. And I'm sure you'll find a lot of courses, especially from a brilliant man named Kirill. You'll find a lot of courses on how to code and create a blockchain from scratch. Yeah. Next question's from Alan. Alan saying, "Hi, Chris. I'm a big fan of yours ever since I took your public speaking course on Udemy." Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Alan. And then you wrote here, "I also bought your business plan course, and now I'm in your silver MBA degree program." Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Alan. Thank you. And when it comes to public speaking, I used to be so scared, man. I was terrified. Like I'd rather, when I was younger, I'd rather die, literally, than get up in front of an audience and give a speech. And then I got to the point where you got to run to your fear, man. Like you got to run to your fear in business and all aspects of life. You know, if accounting scares you, run towards it and don't memorize how accounting works. Understand how it works and condition yourself to love it. And I love reading financial statements down like a good book. But I sucked at financial statements for years. When I was an undergrad at McGill University, back in 1991, I remember I got a D in accounting. And I thought my life was over. I did, meaning business-wise. But I got a D because I was memorizing equations and not understanding them. And you can do well in high school if you memorize stuff. But when you enter the real world or you get in university, you have to understand stuff in order to excel in all aspects of university or life in general. So that I ran to my fear in accounting, and I finally conquered it. And now I teach it sort of okay sometimes. Now, when it comes to public speaking, I was also terrified. And I've got this, I created this methodology, which it's called the Cider Rules or the Cider House Rules, I call them. So every speech you give has got to be convincing, interesting, different, edutaining, and relevant as well. So if you stick with the Cider Rules or Cider House Rules, as I mentioned in my complete public speaking or presentation course on Udemy, you'll do well. You'll do well. But you also have to tell yourself, I don't give a damn what people think. So let me draw a quick chart for you here, okay? I'll use this side. And this is the best quote ever. And I got this done on Etsy. This is a quote from Michael Jordan, of course. He said, "I failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed." You know, when I was a kid, I used to have posters of cars on my wall, and musicians, whatever. And that motivated me as a kid, I guess. But now I have this. And if you can get something like this to motivate you and put it on your wall, it looks kind of cool as well. Then it's a worthwhile investment. Again, you can get it from Etsy.com, ETSY.com. I'm not comped by any company ever. But here's a chart that I love. Let me do it this way here. And this will help you with public speaking in all aspects of your life in business. Okay. So on this chart, here's the x-axis, here's the y-axis. Okay. On the x-axis is your age. Okay. On the y-axis is give a damn. When you're younger, you're down here, like my 3 kids there, you can see. When you're younger, you don't give a damn what people think of you. You just don't care. And when you're older, like me, or really old, you don't give a damn either. Old people don't have confidence problems. The problem is right when you're here in between, when you're in your 20s or 30s, you're up here. You give a damn people think, or at least a lot of people do, including me. I was so damn insecure in my 20s and 30s. And that really held me back in life. I made a lot of dumb decisions career-wise. I went into careers to, I don't know, impress certain people, etc. And then I realized that you got to avoid this triangle of despair at all costs if you can. And just stick on this level here, right? Just be on this level and just tell yourself, I don't give a damn what people think of my career decisions, my awful hair dye. A little bit too dark this week, I think, yeah. I just don't care. And the best entrepreneurs in the world live at this level. People like Oprah Winfrey or Elon Musk or Mark Benioff or Bill Gates, whatever. They don't give a damn what people think of them. They never did, and they never will. And if you spend all your time up here focused on what other people think of you, you'll never reach your full potential in life. You got to live at this level and just tell yourself, I don't give a damn what people say. Because as Dr. Seuss said, and I read my son Dylan, Dr. Seuss book the other day, as Dr. Seuss said, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. So for an exercise today, I want you to fill in the blanks for this. I don't care about X. And write that down 10 times. So and then fill in the variable X. So I don't care what people think of my career. I don't care that people might think I'm a little bit sophomoric or junior or immature because I love playing video games. It's true, I do. I'm playing The Last of Us Part 2 right now. I have to play with the lights on because it scares the hell out of me. But I love that game. But I don't care what people think. I don't care what people think of my career choice. Up until recently, I'd have buddies in the venture capital and hedge fund sector call me and say, so are you done with this teaching thing? Do you want to come back now? No, I don't care. I want to be me. I want to do what I want to do. I want to teach. And when one teaches, two learn. So fill in the blank. I don't care about X. Do that 10 times. That's your homework for this week. Yeah. All right. Next up, John Lennon is and by the way, and I know that your last name is Lennon with one N, Lenon. John Lennon, I think, is 2 N's, right? The guy from the Beatles. I spent a couple hours talking to Julian Lennon one day in Barbados. I was working in offshore banking there in 1996, 1997 when I worked at Accenture. Sorry. But and I went to a bar and I saw Julian Lennon, and I approached him, and I mean we drank a lot. I did more listening than talking, and he was telling me about. And when I first approached him, I said, I'm a huge fan of your dad, John Lennon, and he told me, well, I only saw him a couple times in me life. That's what he said, and it was kind of tough for him. It was rough, and I asked him, how did you cope with it? And he said, well, Paul McCartney was like a second father figure to me. And what he did was he wrote a song for me. He used to call me Jude, right? His name is Julian. And he wrote a song called Hey Jude. Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her into your heart. And I think he was talking about Yoko, who was not his mother. His mother's Cynthia Lennon. But I thought that was kind of an interesting story. Yeah. So John Lennon is asking, I've heard the mega private equity funds only hire former investment bankers or from top MBA schools. Do you think an undergraduate student can break into private equity right after college, or investment banking is investment banking the only option, or a buy side job? Yeah. So I would say that you can get any damn job you want. As long as you network a lot, right? You can get into a private equity firm if you network. And you could go to my website, harouneducation.com, and download this networking book for free. It's a couple hundred pages, including a few hours of YouTube videos I created for you. And I guarantee that your chances of getting a job in any field goes up materially if you network aggressively and network the right way. Anybody can do it. There are so many incredible stories of people that went from the mailroom with no high school education and they became CEOs. So examples of this actually, people that didn't graduate university that worked in the mailroom and made it to CEO include Sidney Weinberg, who is the former CEO of Goldman Sachs for a couple decades. Other examples include the former CEO of Cosmopolitan Magazine, the former president of ESPN, Barry Diller, who's an internet pioneer. The list goes on and on and on. And the reason why a lot of people make it from the mailroom to the corner office, David Geffen as well, yeah, and Simon Cowell from American Idol. The reason is because they network a lot. You know, top of the morning too. Did you see the game last night? Here's your mail. They network a lot. And relationships are more important than product knowledge. And I actually learned, I learned the hard way that business is about relationships first and product knowledge second. And I remember I graduated undergrad and I started working. And other people were getting promoted faster than me. And I didn't understand why. And it was because they asked. And they networked a lot. If you want to get a promotion or a raise, you have to ask. If you want to get a date, you have to ask. I had to ask 8 million times. And networking and dating is similar too. It's just a game of numbers, right? If you keep at it, you will get that networking meeting or that date or whatever it is. But you have to ask, and you have to network aggressively. And I teach you all these secrets on how to network aggressively in this free book of mine that you can get from my website. But make sure, John, that you're chasing private equity because it's something you're passionate about. So I recommend doing this. I recommend reading a book called Barbarians at the Gate. It was written in the late 1980s. And it was about Henry Kravis from KKR, and he went to my business school. And by the way, he came and gave us a presentation one day at B School, Henry Kravis. And I was front row. I couldn't wait to hear him talk about deals. All he talked about for an hour and a half was charity and giving your time, not just money, but your time. And I've got so much respect for that guy. He was a straight C student, by the way, too. But this book, Barbarians at the Gate, it's about private equity deals, mainly the management buyout or MBO of the National Biscuit Company, which is Nabisco. So check it out. And as you read that book, John, if it makes you excited and you thoroughly enjoy it, then that might be a career worth considering, meaning private equity. You gotta enjoy it. So before focusing on how to get that job, always think about, why do I want that job? And if you're thinking with this first, this will work much, much better. Okay. And then Alan is saying, I really feel that you are passionate about teaching and that you care about your students. God bless you and more success to you. Thank you, Alan. God bless you more. I really appreciate that. I do care a lot. And I pride myself on treating my students like they are the customer. Imagine that, a teacher treating the student like a customer, or any company treating the person that gives them money to buy their services or products like a customer. I mean, I think that a company is only as good as its customer service, and I believe that a teacher is only as good as its student service, so to speak. And this is fun too. And the last thing I'll say is that when one teaches, two learn. Thank you. And thanks again for buying my MBA degree program. I appreciate that. Next question is from John, who's saying, can you give your honest opinion? Oh, this is going to be tough. I don't know if I can. Can you give your honest opinion about jobs at hedge funds, like the trading role at a hedge fund? I really can't decide whether I should focus on finance or tech. Yeah. So I would say that, and be careful with trading, and I say this with love in my heart, but the worst thing that can happen is you start to trade and you make money right away. That's just as bad as going to a casino the first time and betting on the roulette wheel and making a lot of money, because you'll come back and you'll bet more and more and more, and you'll lose it all. And I think trading is the same thing too. I can't name a single trader that's been successful longer term. If you can, please tell me their names. They don't exist. They don't exist. So I wouldn't take a trading role at a hedge fund. So I would take an analyst role and eventually a portfolio manager role. And when you do that, I want you to be very, very long-term focused when you pick stocks. And the truth is that the trader role on the buy side, meaning at mutual funds or hedge funds, it's really being replaced with technology or augmented, right? And there are a lot of hedge funds, and some of them I've worked at, they don't call them traders, they call them execution, because they execute trades. And execution is now done by computers as well. Yeah. But just do what you love doing the most. And then you write here, should I do finance or tech? So if you wake up in the morning and you tell yourself you're going to work, then with all due respect, you're doing it wrong. You got to find your passion, your raison d'être. You got to find what was the reason you were put on this earth. And I've got a great quote over here, which is blocked by my cameras, I guess, but it's from Mark Twain. And he said, the two most important days in your life are, number one, the day you're born, and number two, the day you find out why. What's your why? What are you passionate about? What drives you? What would you do for free? What would you do on vacation because it's fun for you and not a job? That's what I would say. And the real testament, and this really hit home for me this morning. I didn't sleep very well last night. I got up early and I looked at my clock. And years ago, when I worked in big companies and hated doing what I was doing, I would look at the clock and say, oh, good, I got a couple more hours of sleep. But this morning I looked at the clock and I was like, I'm so excited, man. I got to get up and get ready for this webcast. I love doing what I'm doing. And so I want you to do the same thing, please. I want you to think about it that way. What are you incredibly passionate about? And don't just chase money. Otherwise, what will happen is you lose your dreams and your money. But if you chase your dreams and you're willing to fail at least a couple times, and you only have to be right in business one time. But if you chase your dreams and you fail a couple times, whatever, and you don't give a damn what people think of you, and you keep working at it, then your dreams will come true and the money will follow accidentally. It always does. All these incredible entrepreneurs or human rights activists, they don't do it for the money. They do it because they love doing what they're doing. Like Oprah Winfrey, it was never about the money for her. She just loves it. And she was told a gazillion times she'd never make it. She didn't give a damn. She kept chasing her dreams. The whole world is wrong and you're right. The same thing with Elon Musk. He doesn't give a damn what people think of him. I mean, the guy is talking about colonizing Mars now. God bless him. How cool is that? He doesn't care. Do what you love doing. And as Confucius said, you'll never have a job for the rest of your life. All right. And give me 1 second here, folks. And if you're wondering why I have a couple of keyboards, it's because I got a couple computers running at the same time. Yeah. All right. Because I never want my production computer to be the same one where I read emails from in case one goes down. I have backups. As the late, great Andy Grove, the co-founder of Intel, says, only the paranoid survive. Yeah. I'm that guy that would show up to presentations with 2 laptops just in case one died. Yeah. But one presentation can change your life. Next up, question from John. He's saying, Chris, one of my dreams is to settle in the United States. But for my country, it's very hard to get a green card through the job route. So should I go to Canada as a safe option. What are your views? Yeah, I get this question a lot. It's interesting. And so my dad actually he's from Egypt, from a town a couple hours south of Cairo called Sohag, and he wanted to immigrate to the United States in the late '60s, and instead he came to Canada. But his brother went to the United States as well. And so a lot of people take that route. They go to Canada first, and then they end up staying there because it's such an awesome country. And yes, I am a little bit biased, but it is a great place to raise a family. But I think the best way to be able to move to another country is to work for a company whose headquarters are in the country you want to work at. And if you work very hard and you prove yourself and you rise through the ranks, then you can transfer eventually to the mothership, meaning the headquarters of that company. It's doable. It's doable. Just get your foot in the door. Network a lot. You can download my free networking book from my website. Network a lot. Get that job at a multinational firm. Do exceptionally well. And then ask to get transferred to the mothership, meaning the corporate headquarters of that company. And you don't have to... The world's a smaller place than we think. And given COVID, it really reinforces my long-term thesis that you don't have to... That's my alarm going off. That's my alarm, by the way. Gangnam Style, you hear that? Yeah. You don't have to actually... You can be anywhere in the world if you want to start a company. And the cost to start a company is nothing. I mean, the cost of computing is almost free. If you have a browser and heart, you can start a company anywhere in the world. You don't have to come to the United States or go to England or go to Singapore or whatever it is. You can start from your house. And I have a course called the Complete Business Plan course that I recommend checking out. I'll help you write an amazing business plan in 9 hours. Or you can take my MBA degree program and you can go through my venture capital bootcamp program, which we cover in the 3rd semester, which is fun. Yeah. All right, next up, we've got Amazing Science 360 is saying, hi, Chris. Last time you told me to focus on fundamental valuation and technical aspects on share market, which is the best performing to learn all these. Yeah. So I would say that when you're looking at stocks or any investment class, use the FVT methodology in that order. F stands for fundamentals. Do a lot of fundamental research first, and I teach you this in my courses and my MBA degree program. Then after you're comfortable with the fundamentals, then focus on the valuation. And then the very, very last thing you should focus on, if anything at all, if at all, is T for technicals. And just use technical analysis for deciding when to get into a position, etc. But I want you to be like Warren Buffett. And what Warren Buffett does is when he invests, he always goes in with the understanding that the stock market might be closed for 10 years. Now, of course, the market will not be closed ever for 10 years. But that's how long-term focused he is. You know, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. All right, next question is from Naveed, who's saying, hi, Chris, hope you're well, likewise. I want to ask that if learning a technology skill like data analysis or Python, could it be worth it for financial reporting professionals? I'm working with retail investment funds. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, any skill that can be used to make employees in a financial services firm much more productive is definitely worthwhile. So yeah, definitely. And techies are getting more respected now in financial services firms. I remember when I worked at Goldman years ago, it used to bug me. I worked in finance there, but as a former techie, I worked at Accenture before Goldman. Whenever somebody on the trading floor had an issue, you know, they would say technology, and they wouldn't even say the person's name. And I thought it was kind of disrespectful. But since then, the CTO role has been created and the CIO role as well. And so programmers are much more respected now, which is a beautiful thing, at a lot of big financial services firms. In fact, companies like Wells Fargo and B of A, Bank of America, they spend over $10 billion every year on technology. And a lot of that goes to programmers. Yeah. So there's definitely going to be more demand in the future than there is today for working as a techie, a programmer, or a data analyst at a financial services firm. Yeah. Okay, next question is, I was very keen on self-paced. I would love if you have a schedule for day-to-day basis for the MBA program. Yeah, so what we do with the MBA degree program, so there's three versions. There's silver, gold, and platinum. The silver version you can sign up for today, and it's 300 hours, and you can do it yourself. It can take you 6 months if you want to do it quickly, or much longer if you want to take your time with it. So that's on demand. The next version, gold, is kind of like the silver, except you get a couple hundred hours of live Q&A like this, or over Zoom even. We do it Brady Bunch style. I'm dating myself there, if anybody gets that reference. And the gold version is just, or the platinum version is just like gold, except you get a couple hours of one-on-one time with me. And I'll literally write your resume and LinkedIn profile as well, and humbly help you if I can in other aspects of your career. In terms of the schedule, so as I mentioned, silver, you just do it online and take it at your own pace, whatever. Gold and platinum, I have classes that are on 2 days per week. So every Monday and every Tuesday, I have 2 time zones where I teach. Time zone 1 for Mondays and Tuesdays is 9 a.m. to noon, my time, plus a couple hours of Q&A if there's demand. And time zone 2 is also Monday and Tuesday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. plus Q&A as well if there's a lot of demand for it. And that's all Pacific time. And I also do MBA only office hours call, kind of like this, for my gold and platinum students every Thursday. And it starts after this call is done, meaning it starts at 11:15 every Thursday. And then I do a ton of one-on-ones on Thursday. And next year, I'm going to be spending a lot more time doing one-on-ones. So I'll probably do one-on-ones every single day of the week. Yeah. So, and the way it works is I record lessons, I play them back, and then I get on for Q&A. A lot of Q&A, a ton of Q&A, just like this, or via Zoom. And if you miss classes, that's cool. You can always do the replays online. You have access to it forever, and you don't have to quit your job. You can do this MBA degree program while you work as well, and it's pass fail. It's pass fail because I found that when I went to business school, there wasn't really the incentive for teamwork, and there's a bit more of a shark mentality. So I believe in pass or fail. I believe that team, TEAM, stands for together everyone achieves more. Yeah. And there's no I in team, but there's an I in Chris. I've gone, what is it, like an hour so far today? I've got an hour without a single dad joke until now. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next up, Tango has a question. Is saying earlier you mentioned that you have in my portfolio Workday, Splunk, and ServiceNow. My question is, how to know how did you know that they were good investments? Okay, yeah. So the question is probably on a previous webcast. I mentioned that I invested in Splunk, ServiceNow, and Workday. 3 wonderful software companies. The tickers are SPLK. NOW, and NOW is right now, or ServiceNow, I should say. Workday is WDAY, and Splunk is SPLK, that's right. And I invested in those 3 IPOs in the summer of 2012. And the reason why I invested in those companies was not because they're great companies. You know, I believe the jockey is more important than the horse. The reason I invested was because of great management team. And so Godfrey Sullivan, I met with him during the IPO roadshow. He was the CEO of Splunk, and he's an amazing manager. And I have buddies that have worked for him, and they say that he's great because he motivates us, and he only criticizes in private, and he praises in public. And I knew Godfrey for years. I was the 3rd largest shareholder of Hyperion, ticker HYSL. when I worked at a hedge fund years ago. And of course, Oracle bought the company. So I know him well. And he worked also at Apple. He's got an amazing reputation. He's since retired from Splunk. Yeah. In terms of ServiceNow, there's a brilliant man named Fred Luddy, who is the founder. Really smart guy. I met with him. He impressed the heck out of me. I also met with Frank Slootman and Mike Scarpelli. So Frank Slootman was the CEO, and I've known him from other companies he's worked in the data sector. And then Mike Scarpelli was the CFO. Yeah, and Mike's amazing. And actually, I played tennis with his wife growing up in Canada, the McDonnell family. We lived in the same street. And then when it comes to Workday, the management team was incredible as well. There's a brilliant man named Anil Busri, as well as Dave Duffield. And they'd founded a couple other companies together before, including PeopleSoft, and just fantastic managers. So for me, it was all about the management team, and it always is. The jockey's more important than the horse. When you start doing research on a company, you have to analyze the management team first. What's the point of building a financial model and doing a lot of due diligence if you don't have brilliant people around the company? And that's what a successful company is. It's run by brilliant people that are great salespeople that have a great track record as well. And I'd always rather invest in an A management team with a B business model than investing in a B management team with an A business model. The jockey's more important than the horse, always. All right. And next question is from Tango, who's saying, do you recommend some sites or services for tracking stocks? It's hard to analyze and track if you have a full-time job. Any views? Yeah, I would just go to finance.yahoo.com. I used to spend thousands of dollars every month for my analysts at my hedge fund on Bloomberg software. Then I realized it's an absolute waste of money because you can get everything Bloomberg offers for free online. So I would just create your fake or real portfolios on Yahoo Finance. So go to finance.yahoo.com. Yeah. And never take anybody's advice on what stocks to buy or sell. You always do your own research. And we used to joke in the hedge fund industry, how do you know when a CEO is lying? When they move their lips. Things have gotten better from a disclosure perspective, given the passing of Regulation Fair Disclosure in 2002. But I still believe that a lot of management teams can mislead you. And they're not being unethical. They're just amazing salespeople. That's how you make CEO. You're a great salesperson. Same thing with partner in a law firm or a venture capital firm. You're a great salesperson. That's how you got to that position. So always do your own research. Never look at an interview with the management team right off the bat and decide to buy or sell a stock. Do your own research first, and never rely on anybody, including me, to tell you what stocks to buy. My raison d'être, the reason I do this, is to humbly teach you how to fish instead of providing you with a fish. And don't read any articles on any website or watch any television program where there is a mutual fund or hedge fund manager talking about stocks, because they're going to bias you. They're great salespeople. That's how they got to that position. They're going to bias you to want to buy stocks they've invested in. Or if they're CEO, they're going to bias you to want to invest in their company. Again, they're not unethical. They're just all great salespeople. And quite often, almost all the time, hedge funds or mutual funds, they'll disclose what stocks they own during an interview. But they'll still convince you to buy the stock because that's how good they are at selling. So don't ever subscribe to any service that tells you what to buy or sell. And if you want, you can do a search on Motley Fool on YouTube, and you'll see my humble thoughts on services like that. All right, next question. Hey, Kemi, how are you? Kemi is saying, hi, Chris. I hope you're doing well. And you wrote here, getting better each episode. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I remember, I think you're from England initially, but you live in Brampton. I think you came on the call once, I think. And I used to live in Bramalea, pretty close to where you live now on Chinguacousy, I think. Yeah, that area. Yeah. So your questions are, What's the best way for a government to use cryptocurrencies? Yeah. So I think that governments have had a monopoly for decades and hundreds of years, actually, when it comes to their currency. And whenever there's a monopoly, meaning one company or one entity controlling, having too much power, then innovation doesn't occur. And so I'm amazed that we still use cash. I mean, it literally, like American bills look the exact same today as they did in 1933. I have old 1933 bills. They look identical. It's ridiculous. And competition is good for the consumer. And so I think that governments are going to have to adapt and start to embrace certain cryptocurrencies. And I think they'll kind of make their own currencies somewhat crypto-ish, so to speak, because it's a more secure way to transact. And there's better visibility. You can trace each trade as well, or each transaction. Yeah. And if governments don't do this, then I think a lot of governments will go belly up. And here's why. So the most powerful weapon that a government has is the ability to manipulate its own currency. And what I mean by that is this. If a government wants to build a bridge, not a wall, but a bridge, or if a government wants to declare war, God forbid, the way they do that is by issuing bonds. Okay, tax revenue is not enough to pay for stuff. So the way it works is this. A government will say, I will sell you this bond, you, a consumer or a bank or anybody, I'll sell you this bond and you'll get a decent return on investment. In return, you'll give me your cash. Thank you. So I'm the government. You just got the bond. That cash was just taken out of circulation. And because there's less money out there, that means interest rate goes up. And the use of proceeds is to pay for stuff like building that bridge or defending a country, whatever it is. Now, imagine, and this is extreme, but I'm going to be extreme in this example just to prove a point. Imagine that you decided you don't want to own Canadian dollars where you live, or pounds when you used to live in England, and you're just going to buy cryptocurrencies. And if that happens, you're no longer going to be buying bonds from governments. And so the biggest threat to national security in the long run for a lot of governments is cryptocurrencies. If governments can't issue bonds to pay for stuff, then they're not going to be relevant longer term, and governments hate losing power. And so I think what's going to happen is competition's good for the consumer. I think what will happen is governments will start to embrace cryptocurrency technologies into their own currencies, their own fiat currencies or paper-based currencies in the long run. Yeah. And a lot of governments feel so threatened by cryptos that they've made them illegal in certain countries. Yeah. All right. Next question is, what book are you currently reading? Yeah. So I just did a case study with my MBA degree students on Nintendo, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. And I read a couple books on Nintendo. Nintendo's an amazing company, dude. It's been around for more than 100 years. They've got a very paranoid corporate culture there. And I've invested in them. I've visited them in Japan years ago when I worked in the hedge fund industry. So I just finished a couple books on Nintendo in preparation for a case study in class. Yeah. Next up, Kemi is asking, what do you think of pyramid schemes? Yeah. So I'm cautious when it comes to anything pyramid related. But what I'll say is that before investing in any product, meaning an IPO, a real estate deal, a cryptocurrency, whatever it is, read the offering memorandum, the investment offering memorandum. And if you can't find one, they don't have it, then don't invest. But companies have to disclose all material risks in the investment offerings. Otherwise, they can get sued. So read the financial documents, investment offerings, the S1 document, if it's an IPO, etc. Because all the risks should be disclosed. And if you can't get your hands on it, then don't invest. Yeah. All right. Give me 1 second here. Just to hit refresh, see if there's any issues with sound. No one's complaining. Good. All right, hold on. Okay, cool. All right. Next up, Noman is saying good evening. Good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. Kemi is saying here a random question. On the chain, who's more profitable, the manufacturer, distributor, or retailer? Yeah, from a supply chain perspective. Yeah. So I would say that the manufacturer, like whoever owns the product or makes the product, usually makes more money. So in finance, the investment banker makes the product. So they make more money than the people that trade or invest in the product. In technology, the people that make the product, like software engineers, they own the intellectual property. They make more money than people that distribute or resell that product. In the consulting industry as well, you've got these great consulting firms like McKinsey, the Boston Consulting Group, Bain, etc. They make the corporate strategy. So they make a lot more money than people that do not. So if you work in manufacturing or origination of a product, as long as you own the rights to the intellectual property, your profit margin should be much, much higher. Now, in terms of distributors, it's and retail. There's a fly in here for some reason. Sorry, it's a moth or something. Oh, never happened before. But in terms of retail, it is a dog-eat-dog business. It is rough, man. Especially now, given COVID, a lot of retailers are going belly up or declaring bankruptcy. And even before COVID, it's tough to work in retail and compete with companies like Amazon, who has razor-thin profit margins. It's tough to survive, in a traditional bricks and mortar organization. So I say the bottom line is whoever makes the product and owns the intellectual property of that product is going to be much more profitable in the long run than the person that sells it. Okay. Next question is, hey, Chris, I took your MBA course and business plan course. How should I go about building an app linking multiple people in different countries for a specific field and skill? Yeah. So it's a tough one for me to answer, but I'll answer it more generically. I think that in order to survive in business nowadays, I think you have to add a lot of value to the customers and improve their lives before they buy the product. So for my courses, for example, I give away 10% for free, all my courses. And also I have a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. And I believe that a company is only as good as its customer service. When it comes to an app, what's most important from an investment perspective is the number of users or subs. They call it subscribers. And you got to get as many subscribers as you can as fast as you can in order to attract a lot of venture capital money. And I remember Snapchat years ago. They came up to the Bay Area and were trying to raise money. And I think Spiegel was up here, who's the founder, brilliant man. And a lot of venture capital firms said, so your company, Snapchat, you're telling me that it takes a picture and then you can't find that picture anymore. I don't want to lose memories of my kids. That's an awful idea. Then a year or two later, he came back to raise money, and he had over 6 million subscribers to Snapchat at that time, 6 million users. And venture capital firms were like, oh my gosh, that's the best business model ever. So I think what's important with an app is your go-to-market strategy and how are you going to get big fast? How are you going to get as many downloads as you can with your app? And I think the best approach is a freemium offering where it's free for everybody for a long, long time. And then eventually you figure out how to monetize it. It's like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And you monetize it later, as crazy as that sounds. And so I have friends that work at Facebook for Mark Zuckerberg. And I'm very critical of Facebook. I am. However, Zuck does a great job with acquisitions because what he does is he doesn't try to monetize them right away. He'll let Instagram or WhatsApp run as separate entities for 5 or 10 years. And all he cares about is getting as many subscribers as possible and then eventually monetizing it later. Like until recently, a lot of people didn't realize Instagram was part of Facebook until they recently rebranded it as Instagram, a Facebook company. And so the bottom line is when it comes to apps, you got to get big as fast as you can, get as many subscribers as you can, and then monetize it later. Last thing I'll say, actually, one more quick thing. I recommend two approaches to getting free PR. One way is to network a lot, and you can get my networking book for free from my website, harounventures.com, and set up meetings with journalists that have something in common with you. And I teach you how in that book, and help them in their careers, and they'll help you. Maybe they'll write a story about you. That's what I recommend. Yeah. Another thing I recommend doing is when it comes to marketing, it's so hard to sell yourself, man. It's tough with so many social media outlets competing for eyeballs. So I recommend being controversial. And Mark Benioff, for example, who's a brilliant man and a wonderful humanitarian, he started a company called Salesforce, which is the largest employer now in San Francisco. And he got a lot of free PR. He made friends with a lot of journalists, and he was controversial. He would go on talk shows and say, software is dead. And no, people at first were like, what? That doesn't make sense. What do you mean? That's controversial. What do you mean? And he said, well, the cloud is the future. You can save all of your stuff in the cloud, except instead of downloading software and installing it, on your computer. And the cloud is the future. But he was very controversial, saying software is dead. Another person that used controversy as well, Elon Musk uses it all the time when he sends out tweets. And you can just go and read his tweets. You'll know exactly what I mean. There's also Sir Richard Branson. So Sir Richard Branson, he declared war on Coca-Cola, and he launched a product called Virgin Cola. And it's not in existence anymore, but I want to talk about it because his PR was pretty smart and out there. He rented a tank and drove it into Times Square with a bunch of Virgin Cola cans on it. And he declared war on Coca-Cola. Obviously, you can't do that nowadays for obvious reasons, but it was very controversial. It's kind of like for me, if I'm trying to sell my MBA degree program, I might say, why go to Harvard Business School, HBS? Because 2/3 of HBS is BS. I can't say that because there's Haroun Business School too, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. So the bottom line is, in order to get big fast with your app or your startup, you want to network a lot, read my networking book for free from my website, and get meetings with journalists, and also be somewhat controversial in your marketing. It's the basis for what Apple did in 1984 with that commercial that was only shown one time during the Super Bowl, directed by Ridley Scott. It was controversial because Apple took on IBM, who was Big Brother in 1984, and it's Orwellian as well. That's the George Orwell book, 1984. It was very controversial. So that's what I would say. All right. And Himanshu is saying, good morning, Chris. Great to see you as well. Every time I see your name, I always think of this dude named Himanshu who I used to work with and I mentored him actually at Accenture. He's from, he's Indian origin, but he lived in Russia and then moved to Canada. Good dude. Okay. And Casey is saying, Chris, are there any great courses you can recommend for learning PowerPoint? Yeah. So I have one. It's called the Complete Presentation course. And I teach you PowerPoint in that course, as well as all PowerPoint competitors as well, as a way to make great presentations. Yeah. So I kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. I teach you how to create great presentations using PowerPoint, and I also teach you the basics of public speaking. Yeah. All right. And then next up, Kemi is saying, I've been doing research on creating a sustainable product. I feel like as we move towards the digital age, there would be more need to go green in all aspects. What are your thoughts? No, absolutely. And when I invest and when I prognosticate about what I think the future is going to look like, I usually ask myself this one question. Will this product or service be more relevant or less relevant in 5 years? And so, of course, in 5 years from now, I think that thinking green is going to be more relevant than it is today. Yeah. Absolutely. And then Kemi is saying, what does it take to make you a business partner? No, thank you, thank you. Well, you're in my MBA degree program, and I remember I gave it to you for free. I think, right? The platinum version. Yeah. And so when you start this December, then I guess I'll sort of be your business partner because you'll get a couple hours of one-on-one time. So I'll humbly be able to advise on whatever it is company-wise you're thinking of starting. Yeah. But I have a policy of not investing in my students because I get questions all the time about will you invest in my startup? I don't do that, but yeah. All right. And then Casey is saying, with your book covers that you paid for, do you automatically own the rights for the illustration once you pay for it? Yeah. So I'm not an intellectual property rights lawyer. I recommend going to LegalZoom.com and setting up a call. It'll cost you $15 for a call, but you got to do a 6-month trial, I think, to it, and it costs you $30 per call with a lawyer if it's for business purposes. They'll tell you. But what I have found is that when I do use Fiverr.com, which is a wonderful company based in Tel Aviv, Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, when I do use them, when I pay for something, and usually it starts at $5, hence the name, if I want to get the digital rights, they'll usually charge me more, which is what I always do. Yeah. But talk to a lawyer first, please. All right. And then Keith is saying, hey, Chris, what are your thoughts on equity crowdfunding sites like Start Engine, Circle Up, and Fundable for individual investors to get in an opportunity at the ground floor? Yeah. So I would say for, like, when I used to work full-time in venture capital, for every awesome startup like Google, there's a gazillion others that go nowhere. In fact, the top 10 venture capital firms on the planet, only 1% of their investments become unicorns, which means $1 billion company. It's really, really hard. And they do a lot of the vetting and background work as well. So I would say with online equity crowdfunding services, I would say 99.9% of the time, you're going to lose your money. It's hard. Yeah. If you want to raise money in general, I recommend reading my networking book that you can get on my website for free and setting up meetings with high net worth investors. Find people who have something in common with you. And I say high net worth investors because the sales cycle is a lot shorter. It's just them deciding versus a venture capital firm that they have tons of committees and bureaucracy and crap as well. Yeah. All right. Next up, Javier is saying, hey, Chris, hey, how are you? Love your weekly sessions. Thank you. I appreciate it. What's your best advice on storytelling for sales calls? Thanks. Yeah. So I would say that you gotta make it personal if you can. And before you sell a product, you have to make sure that you'd feel comfortable selling it to your parents as well. If not, don't sell it. And so the way to personalize it is you find a pain point, and you talk about how the product or service has improved your life. For example, and these are great examples, there was the Jacuzzi brothers, where there's 5 or so brothers. They lived in Italy, and then they immigrated to the United States. And one of their kids had severe muscular issues. And so what they did, and they made airplane engines at that point in time. They re-engineered the airplane engines to create the jacuzzi system for hot tubs, right? To massage the muscle of their kid that had an issue. So that's kind of a personal story that I think is fascinating. And I don't know why they don't brand it as such. I think it's a wonderful story. I read it on Wikipedia, therefore it's true. Yeah. Another example, just as a Canadian, is Bombardier. So Bombardier, it's a machinery company. They make these great skidoos as well. And the story was that one of their kids in the Bombardier family, they couldn't get him to the hospital fast enough because of the snow. And so they created the skidoo. But I would just try to personalize it if you possibly can. And it usually comes from a pain point. Like for me, for example, I love teaching accounting, but I got a D in it the first time I took it because I was trying to memorize accounting instead of understanding it. And now that I understand it, I actually enjoy it, but I teach it in a different way. But it came from frustration. And also for me, this MBA degree program that I have, it also came from frustration because I found that business schools don't teach you the most important skills, like how to sell, how to present, how to interview, how to create a business plan, how to start a company. You know, people that graduate from business school, you might ask them, so do you know how to start a company now? They're like, well, we covered some theory, but not that. Or they learn how to manage other people's money, but not their own. Like when I graduated from business school, and I have an MBA in finance from Columbia University, I remember a couple of years after business school, I wanted to buy a house and an apartment. And I remember calling my buddies that also graduated with an MBA in finance from my school. And I said, hey man, how does a mortgage work? And they were like, I don't know. And I had to call my mom and dad and ask them, how does it work? You know, you're taught how to manage other people's money, but not your own. And so the crux of what I'm doing now is from storytelling, what I just provided you with there, but also from frustration. You know, frustration with the way that business school is set up now. You know, and I've got this issue with universities as well, because you spend $100,000 for a 4-year education and you only have 13 hours of class a week, and you graduate and you can't use anything that they taught you in the real world. It's not applicable. So the bottom line is, when it comes to storytelling with your business model, make it personal. Make it personal, and really try to identify with the person you're selling to. You know, people invest in you first, and then your product or service second. So personalize it. Okay, next up, Abby is saying, how can I market a life advice book without coming across as patronizing? It's aimed for single parents slash caregivers slash students who don't have mentors or family to guide them. Yeah. So I would give plenty of examples. You know, people love case studies, and people always love the stories of somebody that came from a tough background and made it big. And maybe what you can do is, let's say your book is 101 chapters, and it can be called 101 stories of people that came from tough backgrounds and made it big. Obviously, find a more catchy title than that. And each chapter can be you profiling a successful person that came from nothing and how they did it. And people love stories like that. And that's not patronizing at all, because you're giving real examples. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. So real life examples work. And if you want inspiration, what you can do is read a couple of Malcolm Gladwell's books. One of them called Outliers, another one called David and Goliath. It's not a religious book, but it talks about people that were told from a young age that they're not good enough. And because of that, they worked harder than anybody else. And it was a blessing in disguise that they were told they're not good enough. You know, like for me, for example, and I'm not in the same camp as any successful person out there that Gladwell talks about. But for me, I was told that I might have a learning disability. And the school I went to wanted to fail me in the 6th grade and the 8th grade. And now they call me and ask me to come back and give presentations. I'm like, never. I'm not even going to mention the name of the school. But in hindsight, I'm glad those teachers were pricks. I am. I remember I went to this, it was a learning disability center called Chisholm in Oakville, Ontario on Lakeshore Road. And the reason why my grades sucked as a kid was because I wasn't passionate about what I was doing. But dude, that insecurity motivated the hell out of me to work really, really hard. And so in Malcolm Gladwell's book, David and Goliath, he talks about a lot of people that were told they weren't good enough growing up. You know, a lot of people were diagnosed as dyslexic or other issues, including the chairman emeritus of Cisco, John Chambers. He was the CEO for like, I don't know, at least a decade. The same thing with Steven Spielberg. In fact, he did not get into UCLA Film School. Yeah, or he didn't get into USC Film School, I should say. But a lot of people, and the same thing with Elon Musk. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of people that were misdiagnosed or had something happen to them earlier in life, like Elon Musk, and this is publicly disclosed in his biography. But he had the crap kicked out of him, poor guy, in South Africa for just being different. So the bottom line is, I think that if you personalize your book, your self-help book, and give lots of examples, then I think people will really gravitate towards that and enjoy it, because it's factual, it's not patronizing, and it shows that anybody that came from a difficult background, that was dealt a crappy set of cards in life, can make it. Next up, Gerson is saying, good morning, Chris. Nice to see you again. God bless you. Thank you, Gerson. And God bless you way, way more. And Kemi is saying, have you sent out the video of your 2020 new MBA students? The videos. Which video do you mean? I'm so sorry. Let me know, please. I do make a lot of videos, and what I did actually was I sent a customized video to almost all students that applied early on this year. The early people, and I customized it towards them. Yeah. All right. And Pratik is saying air quality was 1,500 in our area last year in November. My goodness, dude, that's brutal. For me, it's over 100. What's the air quality like? All right, it says here, it's hard for you to see, it says 104, which is unhealthy. It says unhealthy for sensitive groups, whatever that means, here in Hillsborough, California. Yeah. And apparently anything over 50 is supposed to be somewhat dangerous, but 1,500, my goodness. Wow. And for those of you that are just starting to notice air quality is bad in your area, what I recommend doing is going to Amazon or online, any online store or whatever, and just buying an air purifier, because I find they're selling out everywhere now for obvious reasons. Yeah. And then Suzanne is saying your Udemy Masters class is around $20. How is this class different from your Ventures class? Asking for more. Yeah. So I don't know what you mean by a Masters class or Ventures class. But I have a course on Udemy called an entire MBA in one course, which is 8 hours long. And then my MBA degree program is over 300 hours. Yeah. And there's different versions of my MBA degree program too. There's silver, which you get access to online videos. Then there's gold, which means you get everything silver gets, a couple hundred hours of videos. Plus you get a few hundred hours of me answering questions, either using Zoom or using YouTube Live. Then there's the platinum version, which has what gold has, but you also have access to a couple hours of one-on-one time with me, all confidential meetings, either using Zoom or in person here in the Bay Area. Yeah, if the world ever returns to normal post-COVID, yeah. All right, question from Zin. And by the way, I answer these questions in the order in which I receive them. Sometimes people will say, why didn't you answer my question? If you put a hyperlink in the email or in the message here, I don't see it. YouTube flags it for some reason. And if I do overlook your question, if I have a senior moment, which happens because the older I get, the better I was. But if I do miss your question, just paste it again, please. Thanks. All right. So Zin is saying, I'm on a venture to manufacture and sell physical fitness products, but I hear that there is a second economic crash coming. Should I hold off until after elections? Again, thank you for the exponential amount of help. My pleasure. And thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I think the best time to start a company is during a recession. Because when times are tough, you don't have as much competition. But when it comes to fitness products, I would just be really, really careful, please, because for obvious reasons, a lot of the bigger gyms now have declared bankruptcy. So, for example, my gym I go to, it's called 24 Hour Fitness. They declared Chapter 11. The same thing with Gold's Gym. A lot of them have. It's really, really tough. And people are buying as many Peloton products as they can, those exercise bikes you can use at home while online. So I'd be careful. And by the way, when it comes to Chapter 11, what that means is this. So in 1979, the American government set up 300 bankruptcy courts all over the country. And there's a bunch of chapters in that, the bankruptcy code or whatever it is, legal code. Chapter 11 means this. And by the way, 75% of all companies that declare Chapter 11 bankruptcy, as long as there's no fraud, they come out on top and they're better off. So here's how it works. And I'm not a lawyer, so talk to a real lawyer if you want the minutia, whatever. The way that Chapter 11 works is you have issues with paying back your debt, so you declare Chapter 11. And what that means is for 4 months, there's a force field around you and nobody can touch you. And what you do is you try to consolidate your debt, talk to the people you owe money to, and see if you can pay them less than the full amount because they'd rather get something rather than nothing. And then after you deal with the bankruptcy courts and you renegotiate your debt, you emerge, you come out of bankruptcy protection. Yeah. And in terms of the product you're talking about mentioning, the physical fitness product, if it's a product that needs to be manufactured, meaning it's not digital, what I recommend, please, is to use the Michael Dell approach. So Michael Dell started Dell Computer when he was a kid from his dorm room in Texas. And the way that Dell works, as we all know, is you order the computer, you pay for it, then it gets built using that money. So he doesn't have inventory issues. The same thing with books. Like whenever you buy a book on Amazon, a paper-based one, when you order it, when you buy it, it hasn't been printed yet. And then you get it 2 days later. So you can always look on the last page to see where the book was made, what date, etc. So this one was September 2017 in San Bernardino, California. If you're in Europe, it's most likely made in Poland. But the brilliance of this business model is that you don't have cash flow issues. You don't have inventory issues either. And inventory can destroy a company. It's what happened in the video game sector in the early 80s. Almost every video game company went bankrupt because of E.T., the movie. That's right. So what happened was E.T. was an incredible movie. It did very well. And so the Atari Corporation, they thought, well, an E.T. video game should do really well. And so they made a ton of them. And nobody bought them because it was crap. It was ridiculous. And so what they had to do is they buried hundreds and hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, of cartridges, ET cartridges, in the desert. And I bought one recently on eBay. It's over here. And I use it for a case study in my MBA degree program. But the entire video game industry contracted, decreased in size by 90% in 1 year in the early 80s. And then eventually Nintendo came along and the rest is history. But inventory destroyed that sector. So please be careful when it comes to manufacturing with inventory. So and what I do now is I have my own merchandise on YouTube. You can find it, whatever, if you care. And it's done through a company called Teespring. And I don't manufacture anything. And neither do they until somebody orders it. Right? So there's no inventory issues. Yeah. So just be careful with inventory, please. Next up, Casey is saying, I'm trying to play a private video through YouTube on an online meeting platform. What could cause the video to be jilted and not aligned with the audio? Any recommendations? Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. Like for me, I have had delays sometimes when I talk. The audio is slightly delayed, and so the software I use here. I'll show you the software I use here. So there's a free software program anybody can download called OBS, which stands for Open Broadcasting Software. And I just showed my students in my MBA degree program how to use it. I also showed them how to use Twitch. We cover everything, as well as how to use OBS, Streamlabs, and Wirecast. But within this software product here, there are settings that I can use to make the audio slightly delayed. Okay, but I do run video and audio separately here. I use this Shure SMB7 microphone here, and I put it here through what's called an F-series lane. But whenever there is a delay, what I do is I can slow down the video by a microsecond if I need to. So that's a little bit under the hood there. Yeah, it's kind of fun. And what I do is I have pedals. And so whenever I map my pedals down here like they're keyboards, I plug them into the USB port. And then what I do is I can use multiple cameras. This one's a little bit crooked here, sorry. Multiple cameras this way. So it's a lot of fun. You can also do this with OBS. I do it with Wirecast. And I do this with my presentations too. And so I'll click through slides and nobody knows I'm reading. It's amazing. You can use a teleprompter. Anybody can do this as well. And I teach you exactly how in my MBA degree program. So here's an angle I have here. And then another one over here. The problem, though, with putting these on your desk, you got to be careful with cameras. I'm learning today, actually, is if you start typing or you move the desk, this shakes as well. So I'm continuously trying to push the goalpost out and improve the customer experience for all of you, but I continue to make mistakes, even at week 108. Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Loving Literacy, who said, hi, Chris, it's Melody. Melody, how are you? Oh, awesome. And I love your new moniker here. And so Melody is a wonderful teacher from Atlanta. And she also has courses on Udemy, and she's the real deal. She's great. And I took her course. I wrote your review. I bought it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And so Loving Literacy, which is Melody, is saying, hope you and your family are doing well. Thank you. Likewise for you. I hope your husband is great and your son and daughter. And I remember meeting your son and daughter about a year ago now. It was October 31st, 2019. And I did a 9.5-hour straight webcast without getting up once. And right at the end, your kids came over. I remember that. It was around 4:30 that day, dressed up in their Halloween costumes as well. Yeah, and they were polite too. And your son said, hello, Mr. Haroun. He said Mr. Haroun perfectly. Most people say Haroun or Heroin. Yeah. And so, Melody, I hope you and your family are doing well. Wishing you the best, likewise. So far, I got 3 more people that signed up for my course. So happy to help parents at this time. It's awesome. It's awesome. Oh, I love it. I love it. And then you wrote here, I love the layout of the workbook you provided. Thank you. Are you still planning to go to Africa? Yeah. So I'm one of my students named Vital. He's from Rwanda, and we're building a school together. And so I've sent over a lot of money. We're trying to get started, but because of Corona, we can't get the people that are building the school to enter a different region in the country yet. And I told my students about a year ago that I was going to go to Rwanda at the end of this year. But we can't get tickets even, right, because of COVID. But we will go eventually. And it's the first of many schools that we're building. And what Vital and I are doing, actually, so Vital is from a town called Magu in Rwanda. We're building that school together there in Magu. And it's going to have solar on the roof so that students there can get access to free courses online forever. But what we're also doing is Vital and I are making, and he's a native French speaker, we're making a French version of my course called An Entire MBA in One Course. And I currently have a French translated version. It's not doing well, and I'm going to get rid of it soon. But Vital and I are recording it together, and I will be speaking French. My French is not that great. I speak franglais. And that will be live before Black Friday. And the use of proceeds from the French version of that course will be to pay for that first of many schools. But I will be going to Africa next year. And I am going to teach a course from Rwanda at that school next year. Come hell or high water, I'm going to go. I'm going to find a way, and God willing, we can travel by that point next year. Yeah. And Suzanne said, okay. So Suzanne is talking about last night's debate. And Suzanne's saying the questions from last night's presidential debate were rude and loaded. White privilege, question mark, he wrote. And then Chris Wallace, worst job. Yeah. And I certainly was disgusted with the way Trump answered that question about, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, yeah. Yeah, Chris Wallace did do a terrible job. Yeah, it was hard though. It's tough for him though because it's so hard to tell people to stop talking. I think what they should do is the microphone should automatically cut off at 2 minutes, like I'm going to do right now. And then now you can hear me again. Yeah. So I think what should happen is the microphone should be cut off at 2 minutes, and the camera should also be cut off at the 2 minute mark and go immediately to either the moderator or the other presidential candidates, both of whom didn't act very presidential, to be honest. Yeah, it was stressful to watch, man. It was stressful. So yeah, but I think they can mute a microphone. It's easy to do, right? We have the technology now to mute microphones. We do. All right. Next up, Nkit is saying, any idea how to start a niche freelancer platform? Yeah. So what I would do just to get started is I would start to use Fiverr.com. That's Fiverr.com. It's a great Tel Aviv-based company where you can get stuff done for at least $5. Then I would start looking at Upwork.com, which is like a much higher end version, and really understand how the platform works, and make mistakes, learn from it, and then start to maybe create your own platform. It's hard though, dude. It's hard. And I think the way to get like these companies like Upwork and Fiverr, they've got a ton of cash to advertise from investors. They don't even have to be profitable for years. They've raised so much money. So I think the best way to get PR or free publicity is to opine a lot. Start making YouTube vlogs. And I have a course called the Complete YouTube course. You can take that if you want to. But become a subject matter expert, a thought leader. How do you become a thought leader? By thinking like one and writing often. Maybe write a book called, like I have here, 101 Crucial Lessons they don't teach you in business school. Maybe write a book called 100 Ways to Be a Freelancer as a Side Hustle. And make 101 short chapters. And then you can gut the book by taking one chapter per week and publishing it on LinkedIn, or making a YouTube video once per week when you vlog, so that you are the subject matter expert and a thought leader, and people refer to you. And if you help other people too through a book or LinkedIn posts or vlogs, only good things will happen. Only good things will happen. You'll be thought of as a subject matter expert. You'll be asked by the media to do interviews, and you'll be helping other people as well. Yeah. All right. Next up, Michael is saying, do you think Netflix, Disney Plus, etc., will be the future of the film industry? Will they outperform cinemas? Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And just given COVID, I think that, for obvious reasons, I think that movie theaters are going to be in terminal secular decline. There'll still be theaters open for great IMAX movies, I think longer term, right? You get a great experience with a massive screen. Plus, IMAX headquarters are in Mississauga, which is where I'm from in Canada. Yeah. But I do believe that we're going to go to the theater less often in 5 or 10 years than we do today. And the cost for getting a big television continues to fall tremendously. It's ridiculous how cheap they're getting. And there's a very famous study done by consulting firm McKinsey back in the 1990s, which stipulates that every component in these things, or a computer or a television, drops in price by 0.6% every week. It's amazing. So you can get that cinema experience in the comfort of your own home without the health issues. And Loving Literacy, whose melody is saying, if you had to invest in only one thing, what would it be? It would be education, without a doubt, ed tech. I believe that every problem in the world can be solved by education. And I gave a TEDx talk, which you can watch on YouTube if you want, on how TEAT, can fix every problem in the world. And T stands for technology, education, and acceptance. So I'm all about education. I wear my heart on my sleeve as well. And people thought for years I was crazy doing what I was doing. And people don't call me crazy anymore, which means maybe it's too late. No, not too late. There's still a lot of low-hanging fruit for people to enter this market. Yeah. All right. And Kemi is saying, what are the effects of COVID, pros and cons on world trade? Yeah. Well, it's hard to come up with any pros. I would say that, well, I won't talk about the cons, but the pros, I guess it's kind of forcing us all to realize that from an international business perspective, we can all work from the comfort of our own homes for many types of jobs, not all, not all. And so the pro might be longer term that people, they bond better with their kids. They spend more time with them. They parent them the right way or better ways at least. And everybody benefits from that. Yeah. Plus, you don't waste as much time commuting, which means that's good for the environment for obvious reasons as well. So those are some of the pros of working from home. The cons are that a lot of business is done at conferences. And if you can't travel to go to a conference in person, a lot of deals don't get done. And a lot of cool new technologies never get discovered. I'm talking about great conferences like E3, the video game show every year in LA that I go to, or the Consumer Electronics Show every year in Vegas in early January. Like a lot of products get launched, and a lot of business gets done at events like that. So there are so many cons with COVID. A lot of them are self-explanatory, yeah. But the pros are that we can all work, or a lot of us can at least, from home. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And my business picked up tremendously, and I felt really bad about it in March. It didn't feel right to profit from the stuff. So I did two things. Number one, I told all my MBA degree students that were on the payment program to pay for the degree that I don't want their money. I gave it to them for free. And what I also did was I sent out one little message over LinkedIn saying that my courses are all free for the next 3 days, just that one message. And then all of a sudden, 1 million people signed up. And I had to hire a bunch more people to help out with customer service. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did, because we're all in this together. Especially in places like Egypt, where my dad is from. I've never gone there. I'd love to go one day. But I was worried because, you got 100 million people in Egypt, and all of them live, for obvious reasons, right along the Nile River. And so I thought COVID, it could be brutal in countries like that. And so I had, I think in one day, 70,000 people in Egypt signed up for my courses. And again, I had a million courses where people signed up for it in a day or two. So if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Yeah. All right. And Senzar is saying, hi, everyone from Kazakhstan. How are you? Good to have you. Thank you. And Melody is saying, I have a few shirts that are black for my videos now. Yeah, dude, it's the best color to use because it's not as noticeable with microphones or with lavaliers, right? So a lavalier is a wireless mic, and a lot of times I'll wear this, and you can't see it. We can kind of see it a little bit at the top there, right? But it's just a black wire. So I think black works out really, really well for doing this sort of thing. That was Steve Jobs loved it too, his turtlenecks. Yeah. I wear a short sleeve shirt now because it gets hot in here, man. There's a lot of lights, and the weather is brutally hot outside right now here in California. Yeah. Pratik is saying, I saw a video on your channel named Elon. Write a name if you want. Oh shit! Shoot, sorry. That got. I thought I published that as unlisted. Thank you for telling me. But let's go there together, and I'll show you behind the scenes here. And don't you hate it when you're asked to restart, and it gives you the option of try in an hour, try tonight, or remind me tomorrow. But there's no option that says don't ever tell me that again. Yeah. All right. So let's go there together. I'll make this really quick, but I'll show you behind the scenes right now. All right, so let's go here. I'm going to go to YouTube, and I'm going to go to my videos. And what I did actually was I made this for Elon. Where is it here? Yeah, I put up a video for Elon. Yeah, he must have taken it down. But if you see it, let me know, please. Now, and I'll go to my channel right here. YouTube's got great analytics as well. It's amazing. Yeah. So here's my channel. And let's go to my videos that are live right now. How to network, how to keep your audience. Yeah, this is unlisted here. This was a Q&A for one of my students. Yeah, I don't see it here. Elon must have taken it down. If you can do me a favor and just let me know, this is helpful. Thank you, Pratik. How many views it has, and just let me know, please. But let me do a quick search here for the word Elon. And Elon is he's a good dude. He's head of sales at my company. Oh, here it is here. What? Let me go here and change this. Yeah, this is an event that we're going to have later. I'll let him know. I'll do a little screen print here. Thank you again for telling me. And my mouse just stopped working. Here we go here. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm so sorry. Let's see here. Yeah. I'll let him know. Thank you. But this here, actually, I'll tell you guys about this now. This is a day we're going to have a marketing event for the MBA degree program. It's going to be on a Friday, the 9th at 11 a.m. my time. So you guys can ask questions about the MBA degree program then. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right. Okay. And then Gorab is saying, hey, Chris, how have you been? I'm great, thanks. I'm always good. I'm always good, thanks. Things are good. We have our health, which is great. A little bit angered, to be honest, about the debate on television. And more angered that my Blue Jays just got eliminated by Tampa Bay from the playoffs. Yeah. All right, next up, Casey is saying, please show us the name and brand of the curtains you bought for soundproofing. Yeah, all you have to do is just go onto Amazon. So let me go into Amazon right now, and I'll show you. And I am so transparent with everything to a fault. Just the way I am. So I'll go into Amazon, and I'll do a search on, and this is acai. I subscribe to this, so it comes every month or two. It's a great South American fruit that gives you a lot of antioxidants. So it's what I put here. It's purple. I put it in my drink. Yeah. All right. So the curtains. Let me search here. Curtains. And Christine's been redecorating. So here they are. Here. Yeah. They're called Nice Town Gray Shades. And so I bought this a couple times. I have curtains there and there. Pricing point's a bit higher than I thought. I got a cheaper one actually. Here, I think. Yeah, these are the ones I got. They're $39. And it's great because they block out the light and the sound as well. Yeah. And those are the ones that I have on this store here, which I'll show you if I can hit the right pedal. Yeah, so there you can see them over there. They're hung up there. Yeah. All right. All right, next up, Kemi is asking, how did you set up a hedge fund? A lot of networking, I guess. Yeah, a ton, yeah. So relationships are more important than product knowledge. I had work experience at a couple of great hedge funds, including Citadel. Also worked at Goldman Sachs, and I worked in the tech sector before that as well. So I was able to sell myself as somebody that understands finance, understands investing, and understands technology. But I networked like crazy. And one thing I learned actually is, and this goes for anybody trying to raise money. A couple things. Number one, don't ever pay somebody to raise money for you. It's a function called capital introduction, which prime brokerage firms offer you on Wall Street. Don't ever pay anybody. You'll never. It's a scam. Secondly, just because you get a lot of meetings doesn't mean you're gonna be be able to raise money. And I say that because the way it works is a lot of firms that invest in hedge funds and startups and venture capital firms, they have to take a certain number of meetings, the analysts do every year. So you become a checkbox. Oh, did my meeting today. And I remember it really hit home for me when I went all over the world to raise money. And I had an offshore fund as well. And I went to Montreal and I got a meeting with the largest pension fund in Quebec called Caisse Dépôt, great firm. And it was supposed to be a half-hour long meeting and it lasted 3 hours. And I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And so, of course, I asked for the sale. I always do, right? That's why I have the meeting at the end of 3 hours. And the person I met with said, well, thank you very much for your time. We'll monitor you. And maybe in 5 years, we'll look to invest. So you become a checkbox. And so I found that the best way to raise money for any company you're starting is by meeting with high net worth investors. And the reason I say that instead of meeting with a venture capital firm or a big institution is because with high net worth investors, the sales cycle is very, very short. It's just one decision maker. There's no bureaucracy. And if you want, you can read my book for free. You can get it for free on my website, harounventures.com, on networking. It's a couple hundred pages, and I teach you all my tricks. And I was able to raise a ton of money using a lot of the networking tips I teach you in that book. Yeah. All right. And of course, I hired lawyers. The lawyer I hired, his name was Jim Grand from the Securities Law Group here in San Francisco. Great guy. And then what he did was he set up my offshore bank as well for my hedge fund, which was in the British Virgin Islands, BVI. It's cheaper than Cayman Islands. Yeah. And then I have what's called a master feeder set up. So I had an offshore firm, onshore, and they fed into my parent company. Yeah. And the offshore is just for people in different countries that wanted to invest offshore. You never give tax advice ever, but you give them the flexibility to be able to invest onshore or offshore for their own personal tax reasons. Yeah. Okay. And then Loving Literacy. Melanie is saying, if anyone needs help reading, I create videos to help kids out with this skill in grades K-5 and in middle school. I'm taking a special request. Very cool. Very cool. And let me know, Melody, how people can find you. Do they just do a search on Loving Literacy? Unfortunately, we can't put hyperlinks here because it strips it out, and I don't see the comments. But whatever your brand name is, maybe it's Loving Literacy. Let us know, and I'll tell people to go search. Thank you. All right, and then next up is the question is from Nikulia saying, "I love that song. It's a theme of my life. You're a legend, Mr. Haroun." Thank you. I think you're talking about my ringtone, which was Gangnam Style. Yeah. Whoop, 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 whoop. Gangnam Style. That was a one-hit wonder, I think, right? Yeah. Better than me. I'm a no-hit wonder. I'm just a no-hit. Okay. All right. And then Norman is saying, I'm still building. And by the way, the way I'm looking at all of you right now is through a teleprompter. If you want to use a teleprompter for doing questions like this or reading slides, make sure the back is black and the writing is white. Otherwise, it looks like this. You see this? This is if it's regular mode. So what I do is I use accessibility mode in the settings menu. So I reverse everything. That's how I can see you guys and not have crazy white blemishes like this everywhere. Yeah. Okay. And then Norman is saying, I'm still building my business plan from the venture capital boot camp. It looks like a pipe dream with over $5 billion required to start up. It was very CapEx intensive. Yeah. And then you wrote here, and the good thing about doing a business plan, and it's a cliche, but failing to plan is planning to fail. And most people don't write a business plan before they start a company. And it's the most important business decision you'll make in your life. And you don't write a business plan, your probability of success goes down a lot. And if you do write a business plan, the whole process might tell you not to start the company because it's too CapEx intensive. And so if I've helped people save money and years on their life through my complete business plan course or my MBA degree program, If I've stopped you from starting a company, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'd be more proud though if you kept writing business plans and found one that worked, which put your dent in the universe. Yeah. And then you wrote here, although I need $5 billion to start this company, sales and revenue and the total addressable market is massive. And I'll discuss more with you during the Q&A session. And you wrote, I'm only 2 weeks behind the class. Awesome. Awesome. Great. I'm looking forward to it. And if you want, and you're a platinum student, I think. So gold and platinum students, there's for MBA students only office hours starting at 11:15 a.m. today, and you can jump on that call if you want to. And if we have a one-on-one scheduled, then we can talk one-on-one as well. Thank you. And of course, ask me as many questions here as you want to as well. Yeah. Okay. Jordan is saying, hey, Chris, hey, any advice for a 25-year-old? Anything you wish you knew at my age? Yeah. So I would say don't listen to anybody when it comes to your career. Just follow your heart, and don't be afraid to take risks and fail fast and keep trying, because you only have to be right in business one time. And don't be someone else's prisoner in your own mind. Follow your heart. Otherwise, you'll never be happy, ever. And before taking on any new job or chasing any career, before asking yourself how, ask yourself why. Why do I want this career? Is it going to make me happy or not? And I get it. Money is an issue for all of us. But there's got to be some point in your life where you say, I'm not chasing money anymore. I'm chasing my dream. And if you chase your dream and you're willing to fail at least a couple times, then what happens is eventually your dreams come true and the money follows accidentally. It always does. That's right. I have so many examples. But if you chase money, you can lose your dreams and your money as well. And the worst thing that can happen to you is you wake up, I don't know, 50 years in the future, and you have trouble getting out of bed because you're going to a job where you work for this jerk that pays you this much money to make their dreams become a reality. Follow your heart, and this will work as well. Much better, much gooder. Yeah. Gregory, how are you? It's been a while, man. I hope you're doing well. And I always smile when I see your name. And you're from Europe. I remember that. I always smile when I see your name because I think of that character named Gregory on that TV show, the best business show on television called Succession. He's British, but he plays an American in the show. It's a great show, actually. Yeah. And I think that show is kind of it's supposed to be the Murdoch family, I think. Yeah. Next up, Manish is saying, I've become your fan, Chris. You are charming. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Is that my mom or dad with a different moniker? I'm just kidding. Oh, thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it. And welcome to the call, Manish. And I hope you join us again every single week forever. Thank you. And Pratik is saying, how do you make your business not dependent on you? Yeah. So for me, I wouldn't want to invest in my business because there's too much risk because I'm for better or for worse the brand. And I've had plenty of offers to invest in my company, but I just want to be me. I don't want to be subject to dealing with a board telling me how to run my company. And I even thought about accreditation for the MBA program for a while, but I'm not doing it. Accreditation, because I think that's the problem with education is there are these standards boards that tell you what you can and can't teach, and they're part of the problem. Yeah, but in terms of a business, the whole business, for better or for worse, whatever, is centered on me. My name is the brand, so it's a risk. It's a risk if someone were to invest. Yeah. But if it's a generic question, how do you make a business not dependent on any person? So I have employees, and I have multiple people doing similar roles. so that if one person quits, I have backup for the most part. Yeah. All right. And then Gregory is saying, Chris, what do you think in the 7P of marketing? Which ones are becoming more important in this special period? Yeah. I know the 4Ps. I've never heard of the 7Ps. Price, I can't even remember. Yeah. Price, product, I don't even know. Yeah. Yeah. And if there's some new theoretical framework I'm not aware of, please let me know. I do teach some frameworks within marketing in the MBA degree program, like the Boston Consulting Group Matrix, as well as the product lifecycle. Yeah. And then Pratik is saying, yeah, no, and I think I answered your question properly. And Pratik, if I didn't, please just ask it again. And my apologies if I wasn't crystal clear. Thank you. All right, next question is, Chris, can you help me with an email to reach you by? Yeah, I don't provide my email. I'm so sorry. I am so inundated that even if I do get emails, I probably overlook them. Yeah. Yeah, the best way to reach me is always here in this weekly call, or if you're my MBA degree student in the Gold or Platinum program, you can ask during the live calls I have with students. Thank you, though. Okay. Next question is, what is your view on artificial intelligence in finance? Yeah. Well, I think it's going to become much more relevant in the future. There's a great company that I was an investor in. I'm no longer. But when I worked in venture capital, I was an investor in Palantir. And they use an artificial intelligence-based algorithm or a program called Gotham. That's one of their programs. Wonder where they got that from. To look for data patterns. And most of the large banks in the world use their product to be able to find security vulnerabilities, right, using their AI engine, so to speak. And also the Obama administration used Palantir software to find Osama bin Laden. And without Palantir, they would not have found him. Because what Palantir does is you feed the Palantir machine a lot of data, and it will analyze the data, clusters, etc., and find patterns from an AI or artificial intelligence based perspective. Yeah. So, yeah. And Palantir is actually the biggest employer as of now in Palo Alto. It's not Facebook. It's not any other tech company. It's not Google. It's Palantir. They're massive. They're massive. Yeah. Okay. Next one is Trading Melon is saying, I am a full-time day trader. Do you think it's impossible? Yeah, I'd be careful. If you're going to do that, I would only transact with capital that you can afford to lose. And I say with love in my heart, I think it's really, really hard. There's a reason why we can't really name that many successful traders that have been successful for years and years and years, because they don't really exist. It's tough. It's tough. You get fooled. Read a book by Nicholas Taleb called Fooled by Randomness. And it's hard to make money every month because there's only 20 weekdays every month, right? And that means 20 days that markets are open. It's hard. And stocks go up and down for reasons outside of our control. Can you make money by looking at charts and, buying stocks that are oversold on an RSI basis of 20? And then shorting stocks that are overbought, meaning RSI of 80. Yeah, you can, but I think too many people are chasing that sort of trade, and it's just not sustainable. Yeah, I humbly, and I say with love in my heart, I recommend being longer term focused. Yeah. All right. Next up, Emily is saying, "Hi, Chris. Hope you're doing well. Likewise, I'm very interested in building and managing my portfolio. Any good books you recommend for portfolio management?" Thanks, Chris. Yeah, you're most welcome. I can't think of any books, to be honest. There was I used to work at a hedge fund called Citadel, and I spent a half hour one day talking to Ken Griffin, the founder, in his office, one-on-one in Chicago. And whenever I meet with somebody, more successful than me, which is basically every meeting of my life, what I do is I look at their bookshelf. and I look to see what books they have in their bookshelf. Now, unfortunately, for obvious reasons, fewer people are buying physical books now. But one of the books on, and what I do is after I meet with them, like before I get out of the elevator, leaving that building, I've already ordered those books. But one of the books on Ken Griffin's shelf was a book on finance by Damadorian, who's a professor of finance at NYU. So you can check out his books as well. But in general, I find that most books on portfolio management are just theoretical. They talk about rules like M&M, the efficiency frontier, and all this garbage theory, where the bottom line is just, get 20 stocks in your portfolio to be diversified. But I pride myself on teaching based on my real life practical experience. And so if you take my Complete Financial Analyst training course, you'll see that I provide you with my own framework for portfolio management, meaning my own Excel dashboard, which is easy to use. And I used to spend thousands of dollars every month on software from Bloomberg for my employees. And I would link it to Excel. And after a while, I was like, you know what, dude, I can just use Yahoo Finance and make my own Excel dashboard. So you could download that dashboard within that course or take my MBA degree program. And I do it in a heck of a lot more detail as well. All right, next up is Emily is saying, also, do you think the coming election will turn into chaos? If yes, will the market crash because of it? Yeah. I don't know. When it comes to timing markets, it's really, really tough. And I want to talk about Art Sandberg. So he was a brilliant man. It breaks my heart. He just passed away, and a wonderful humanitarian as well. But he started a company called Pequot, and I used to work there as well. Really good guy. And I remember back in 2006, really good man. I remember back in 2006, he came out here to the West Coast, and a bunch of us were talking to him about shorting home builders like Lennar and KBH, tickers LEN and KBH. And the thesis we had was that there was too much capacity. Obviously, there was a housing bubble. And we said that the bubble's going to burst. And he said to us, son, I remember this well. He said, son, I've been around long enough to know never to stand in the way of insanity. Markets peak, markets trough, but timing is really, really tough. It's really, really tough. And so it's hard to call market peaks and troughs and when the market's going to crash. I would say just be very, very long-term focused and buy when it feels uncomfortable. I know it sounds weird, but I always love to buy broken stocks, but not broken companies. Especially when it feels so uncomfortable to buy, that's the right time. Because you got to be, as Mr. Buffett said, greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. And Mr. Buffett also said that the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Think about that. So I would just have some powder ready, dry powder, and back up the truck when everyone's freaking out. And just be a contrarian. Otherwise, if you buy the same stock that everybody in the world loves, who's the incremental investor to buy it and push it higher? There's not that many. Just be a contrarian. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. To quote Warren Buffett, last Warren Buffett quote of the day, I promise, is the longer the view, the wiser the intention. Yeah. And I had an analyst that worked for me at my hedge fund years ago, Jason, great guy. And I would ask him, how do you think about volatility with this stock that you're pitching that you want me to buy in my portfolio? And he would say, Chris, I don't know the path, but I know the destination. And you just have to be long-term focused. Wayne Gretzky, great Canadian hockey player, obviously, I'm Canadian represents. When he was asked about why he was so successful at hockey, he said it's because he didn't skate to where the puck is. Rather, he skated to where the puck is going to be. And we have to think the same way when we invest as well. We have to invest in stocks that people are going to like. All right, and Heathens Nations Music. Hey, how are you? It's been a while, probably at least 6 months since I've seen you on the call. Welcome. Heathens Nations Music is saying, Chris, happy October 1st. Likewise, thank you. What are your thoughts on Richard Koch's material on 80/20 as well as on companies like BCG, Bain, et cetera? Yeah. So I don't know about that material 80/20. In terms of BCG and Bain, BCG, for those who are not familiar, stands for the Boston Consulting Group. I think it's a fantastic consulting firm. That's where Benjamin Netanyahu, after he finished MIT, he actually worked there for a while. In terms of Bain, I think it's also a wonderful strategic consulting firm. I think they're both great. I did not get hired by BCG. I remember that. I interviewed with them when I was in. And Mitt Romney was the co-founder of Bain as well. Great firm and a good man as well. I think he would have been a great president. Yeah. But BCG, I remember I didn't get hired by them, and I remember I went to the interview, and it was in Toronto at BCE Place, and they asked me questions about a certain newspaper that was having circulation issues. And what happens is in these consulting meetings or interviews, they'll ask you about a real client, but they'll change the name as well, right? And a lot of times they'll use some of your brilliance or whatever lack thereof on my part to help them with coming up with corporate strategies. Yeah. But I know how to interview better now. And take my complete job course if you're interested, because I guarantee you, there's a lifetime guarantee on it, that I will get you the job of your dreams or your money back. Or take my MBA degree program and I'll teach you much more as well. Next up, Dimitri is saying, hey, Chris, hey, I'm finishing my PhD in life sciences, and I've been considering transitioning into consulting or investing. What would be your tips for people with academic backgrounds to be competitive? Yeah. So I would think about what differentiates you compared to every other candidate. You know, what do you have to offer that others don't? It's tough. It's tough. And I wouldn't just apply for jobs because you see a job opening. It doesn't work that way anymore, because every job opening you see, there's thousands of people applying. The person that gets the job is usually the one that knows people on the inside. So read my networking book. I promise you it will help you a lot to get the job of your dreams. Go to my website, harouneducation.com, and download it. It's a couple 100 pages plus a few hours of YouTube videos you can click on. And it'll help you out tremendously to get the job you're most interested in. Or you could take my MBA degree program, and if you sign up for the platinum version, I will personally write your entire LinkedIn profile for you. Albus, how are you? Good to have you. Okay, next up, Melody is saying, I just want to thank you for helping me with this transition of being a Udemy instructor. My pleasure, my pleasure. And I should thank you, because you're a brilliant teacher, and what you're doing, helping the world with literacy, is a wonderful thing. And then Melody goes on to write, I'm so thankful to be able to do this. I'm proud to call you my mentor. Oh my God. You're the best. Melody, I love you. I love you. Thank you so much for that. God bless you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And do a search, everybody, on loving literacy on Udemy, and take Melody's courses. They're awesome. Yeah, I signed up for them as well, and I wrote your review too. And then Keith wrote, thanks for answering my question. Chris, have a great day. Thanks, Keith. Same to you. Dave Capella in the house. How are you? Dave Capella is one of my wonderful MBA degree program students in the Platinum program. He's a great guy, really smart guy, amazing at photography as well. And I think you had a marijuana company as well, right? Healthcare company. Good dude. Great sense of humor as well. And I smile because Dave and I joke about Dave Chappelle every now and then, of course, and his name is Dave Capel. And I saw Dave Chappelle. Oh my God, that guy's funny, dude. I saw him at the Google Amphitheater in Mountain View a couple of years ago here, and my stomach was hurting the next day. I laughed so hard. And the brilliance of Dave Chappelle and Capel is delivery. And Maya Angelou once said that people might not remember what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. Yeah. And so Dave is saying, I could tell my own story with some kind of teachers. I was 10 years old. The guitar teacher went to my parents and told them David will never play guitar. Many years later, I met an awesome teacher. He said he would teach me and put my video on YouTube. I was not sure about it, and he did. Yeah, yeah. No, it's dude. I gotta say there are so many teachers that destroy your confidence. Most teachers are awesome, but there's some teachers that, and I've had them before when I was younger, that try to bring you down. It's like the army, I guess. They tear you down, but they don't build you back up. And I think that teachers have to treat students like they're the customer. You know, a company is only as good as its customer service. Yeah. So I want to thank all of you, all of my customers for being on this webcast. Even if you're not my customer and never want to be, I want to thank you anyway because this is fun. I love this. All right. All right. Next up, Chandra is saying any future 2021 MBA degree program graduate or candidates here. Yeah. There are a couple. I recognize a couple of names. As my sales staff sends me the list of people that have signed up and paid and all that good stuff. Yeah, and welcome. I'm looking forward to working with you. And Melody is saying, I have OBS right now. That stands for Open Broadcasting Software, which is free software you can use, you can download in order to create webcasts. And I teach my MBA degree program students that as well. Yeah. And then you wrote, I'm using it right now. It's awesome. It is great. And it's free too. It's good. And that's actually it's kind of like how Firefox and Chrome is based on open source code for browsers from Mozilla years ago. That's kind of what Twitch is, and OBS Streamlabs as well. It's all kind of based on that OBS kernel, which is free to use. That's a beautiful thing. All right, next up, we got Michael Reynolds, who's saying, good morning, Chris. Good morning. I live in Sonoma County. I'm so sorry. I hope everything's okay for you. And for those who are not familiar with Sonoma County, it's up by Napa Valley, where there's been a lot of fires. And I hope you're okay. I live in Sonoma County, and I'm working through the Complete Business Plan course. One of my courses called the Complete Business Plan course for a wellness business, online for now. What are your thoughts about the wellness industry? So I'm not a doctor, but I'm really bullish on anything that can help to prolong our lives. And from a venture capital perspective, I see a lot of deals now going into South San Francisco, which is the biotech capital of the United States, along with New Jersey, I guess. And a lot of the money is now going into life extension. So yeah, I love the industry longer term. I'm a biohacker as well. This is my acai drink here. But I do love the industry longer term. And it's really sad, but we're going to see the biggest generational transfer of wealth in history when the baby boomers move on. And I think up until that point, there's going to be a heck of a lot more money going into life extension as well. Yeah. And I'm a big subscriber to everything that Ray Kurzweil says. He's the head of engineering at Google. And he also talks about life extension. And I actually take a lot of vitamins that he recommends, including resveratrol, which you can get in red wine. Speaking of Sonoma, yeah. There's trace elements of it in red wine, but I don't drink. I don't drink anymore, but I don't drink any less. Just kidding. And then Michael's got a follow-up. He's saying, I also purchased your YouTube class and video production masterclass because your business plan course is so excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support. And then they were the worst damn courses I've ever bought. I'm just kidding. You didn't write that. I'm kidding. Then you wrote here, any advice on website building? And then you wrote, thanks for being you. No, thank you. God bless you. Thank you. So I think when it comes to website building, it's a lot easier than you think. And so I use Squarespace. You can use Wix if you want. It's a competitor to Squarespace. I'm pretty happy with them, actually. And so I'll show you actually how it works. So Squarespace, if you know how to use Microsoft Word, it's kind of like that. It's so easy to make a website. But what I do is I put in my own code as well, code injections. And anybody can do this, by the way. Don't get intimidated by programming. All you have to do is go to a website Microsoft owns called GitHub and just do a search on JavaScript. And I'll throw in code every now and then. But one thing I want to mention is this here, okay? So I'm not trying to sell something here, please. But this here, the way that I set these up here was I didn't code this at all. I paid like $10 a month to this company called, what's it called again? It's called Elf Site. And so a lot of the stuff you see on my website is just a plugin from this company here. That's it. That's it. So the basic HTML stuff you can get here in Squarespace. There's tons of templates. But when you want to put advanced stuff in, I just get these little widgets from other companies. So it looks like there's actually a lot to my website. There's not. Even when I go here to weekly webcast, I have automation set up so it automatically pulls in all previous webcasts and puts it directly here, right? This is just using a plugin as well from that Elf company right here. It's called Elf Site. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. But I'd recommend checking out Squarespace as a good place to start. Or you can do WordPress as well. Yeah. Or Wix. And I don't mind paying up a little bit for getting really simple, easy to install, beautiful looking templates. Yeah. All right. Next up is from Satans is saying, thanks so much, Chris. You're an incredible teacher. I was very happy when I bought your course. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then you wrote here, it took me many years just to learn how to set up an LLC and an EIN, which is a employee, was it? Employment Identification Number. I have one as well. I think that's what it stands for. Yeah. And then you wrote, I'm buying platinum. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Excellent. Great. Well, I'm looking forward to working with you in my platinum MBA degree program. It'll be fun. Or your money back. And remember, you get your money back if you buy today. You can get your money back up until 30 days after we start. 100% back. Meaning we start December 14th. You've got until January 14th to get your money back. And last year we had 2 people. So last year we had 160 people in the class. And then 2 asked for their money back within 30 days. Yeah. Thank you. And then Solomon is saying, is California on the brink of becoming a failed state? Why is everyone leaving California? Yeah. I would say that I don't think it's going to be a failed state. I think it's like the 8th biggest economy in the world if it were a country. I don't think it's incredibly well run. I think taxes are ridiculously high here. Like, for example, Tony Robbins, he lived in Southern California forever. He moved to Florida because of taxes. I don't blame him, right? I think taxes are egregious here. But I do love living where I live right now. I think the people are very open-minded. People are willing to take risks here. It's not an American thing because, more than 50% of engineers and founders in the Bay Area here in San Francisco were born overseas. The Pierre Omidyar was born in Iran. Elon Musk in South Africa. One of the Google co-founders, Russia, etc. Right? So it's not an American thing. It's just it's a cultural thing out here. Yeah. People like taking risks, and maybe it goes back to the days of the hippie movement in the 60s. I don't know. Yeah, but people are risk takers out here. But I am disgusted with the tax code out here. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. And a lot of people, what they do is they spend a lot of time in Nevada, which is a state, for those of you not from the United States, that borders California, and taxes are lower there. They'll spend 6 months and 1 day in Nevada and the rest of the year out here for tax reasons. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't think it's going to be a failed state. Just like when people talk about the downfall in New York, New York is down, but never out. They always bounce back, man. Always bounce back. Yeah. All right. And Himanshu is saying, best wishes, Chris. Great work. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Next up, we got Melody, who's saying, have you seen the show High Score on Netflix. It's a show that discusses, yeah, I have, how video games have grown and some games like E.T. failed. Highly recommend it. Oh, I love it. I love it. And I did a ton of research on a case study we did in my MBA degree program, and that was part of it. And let me tell you, it didn't feel like work. It was fun. And I learned some new keywords too, like kill screen. A kill screen means in the old days when you play a video game and you advance so fast that the game just stops working and you see all this crazy stuff on the screen, the kill screen. Yeah. And then next up, if you click my name, right click it to open a second tab and you can see my YouTube page. Okay, cool. And this is Melody. I asked her to tell us how to get in contact with her. So Melody's username here on the webcast is Loving Literacy. She's a wonderful teacher, and you can right click, she said, on her name, and you can open a second tab to see her YouTube page. Pranav is saying, do you think that programming and or new technology will be required for merger arbitration like it will be in the future for most long-short equity teams? What about distressed debt? Yeah. Absolutely. So when I used to work at hedge funds, we had sophisticated programmers that would help out with event-driven deals, meaning they would figure out mathematical calculation and complex option strategies in order to hedge a deal by going short the company making the acquisition and long the company that's being acquired to try to close that spread. And what happens usually is, let's say a company announces they want to buy another firm for $10. So the stock goes up a lot once it's announced, but it usually doesn't go all the way up to $10. And the reason is because the time value of money, because usually it takes at least 6 months for the deal to close. And also there's a risk that the deal might not go through, right? And so people use a lot of complex algorithms and AI and all that stuff from a programming perspective to work on hedging that position. And so I think there will be more demand for that in the future. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. And then next up, Melody is saying, I love the outlook that program on Netflix had about the video gaming world. I loved how they explained the E.T. game and how they had to pitch it to Steven Spielberg. That was interesting. Yeah. And that was the worst game that was ever made, I think. Yeah. And I remember I got it. My dad bought it for me when I was a little kid for Christmas. And it was so bad. It was E.T. running around a screen trying to chase a little, I think it was a little M&M, right? M&M, or no, it was M&M? No, it was a Reese's Pieces. And the real story about that is Steven Spielberg made that up during the filming of E.T. He had a pack of Reese's Pieces, I guess. I've never seen that candy anymore. But he made it up as he went along, and he's a brilliant man and a wonderful humanitarian. Next up, Ryan is saying, do you invest in ETFs, meaning exchange traded funds? I do. And then you wrote, when investing in equities, do you only buy voting shares? Yeah. Now, so I don't, so I do invest in ETFs because they're cheaper than mutual funds. The fees are lower, and 90% of mutual funds underperform ETFs anyway. And mutual funds are a scam. And for more details on this, just do a search on my YouTube page or YouTube vlog, whatever, on mutual funds. I think they're an absolute scam. I don't think anybody should invest in them. But they have really powerful government contacts and all that stuff. And I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. And they spend a lot on advertising. Now, you wrote, do you invest in equities? When I do I only buy voting shares? No. So the way it works is, it's a great question. The way it works usually is the capital structure of a company. It goes debt, preferred shares, common shares. I'll explain that. So if a company goes bankrupt, the people to get their money back first, the ones with the senior claim, are the debt holders, right? The bond holders. Then equity holders, stocks. So preferred shareholders get their money back first because they get preferential treatment, hence the name preferred shares. Then the lowest of the low is common shareholders. And when you buy stocks in the stock market, you're usually almost always buying common shares. And common shares don't really have the same voting rights that preferred shares might. Now, If you buy a ton of common shares, then yes, your vote can matter if there's a proxy. Yeah. But I don't try to delineate it or differentiate it by should I buy this because it's preferred or common. However, when I do invest in private companies, I always love to get preferred shares so that I can't get diluted as much. Yeah. And then Pratik is saying, by the way, my English has improved watching you talking. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I know a lot of people, they learn a new language by watching television and turning on closed captions. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, cool. And let's see how we doing on time here. We got about 10 minutes left. And if I don't answer your question today, then please just paste it again next week. Or if you're in my MBA degree program in gold or platinum, you can ask me today at 11:15 during our MBA students only office hours call. Yeah. Okay. And next up is Gregory saying, Chris, which of the P's, meaning price, promotion, place, people, product, process, physical evidence, are the most important now? Yeah. And that's so interesting, the 7 P's. Because I remember when I was 8 billion years ago, when I did my business degrees, we had the 4 P's. I guess they've added three new ones since then. Let me think about this. Okay, there's price, promotion, place, people, product, process, physical evidence. I would say if I'm analyzing a company, for example, people, the jockey's more important than the horse. So before investing in any company or doing business with companies on a large scale, I don't care as much about the product. I care about the people, because that's what a great company is, a collection of fantastic people with great customer service. So for me, people comes first. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Manas is saying language. Oh, hold on a second. It just jumped on me here. This happens sometimes, guys. Hold on a second. All right. So I lost my spot, so I'm going to do Control F for the word language. Here we go. I found it. Okay, good. So Manas is saying language is never a barrier. Just clarity of 3 things is what matters most: mind, heart, and soul. I love it. And I love that. I love anything that's got 3 in it. Any great picture, the best pictures have 3 layers, always, right? It's the rule of threes. For example, if you go to the beach, take a great picture. The beach is 1 layer, then the ocean, then the sky. Yeah. And that's why with presentations, I recommend never having more than 3 bullet points on any slide, because we can't digest more than 3 things at a time. Yeah. And then Melanie wrote here, Dave Chappelle is hilarious. I agree. I'm Rick James. I can't talk about the rest of that, or otherwise it'll be censored here. And then you wrote, Dave Chappelle has an old box set out of his Dave Chappelle show. I remember that from the early 2000s. I watched that on HBO, I think it was, when I lived in New York. And you wrote, I'll still watch from 10 years ago. It's just as fun. What I do actually is Dave Chappelle, kind of like Ali G, makes me laugh. I'll actually YouTube it every now and then when I get bored or whenever I need to pick me up. And the old Dave Chappelle commercials were hysterical. Yeah. And he was such a big hit because of that show in the early 2000s that he got so popular, and he kind of went a little bit out there. He had to get away from things. So he moved to Africa for like a decade and then came back. Thank God he came back. He's funny as hell. Rudy, how are you, man? It's been like 8 months or so. I hope you're doing well, dude. And Rudy, I think you started an insurance company the last time I saw you here. And Rudy wrote, good afternoon, Chris. Hope you are doing well, likewise. I have a question. What do you think of the company Marquise Who's Who? Yeah. And I've neand heard of them, I'm sorry. My favorite vlogger, his name is Marquise, though. He does great tech reviews, and he's so real. And then you wrote here, they will charge me, this company, Marquise Who's Who, a $1,000 fee to put my bio online, and somehow that should help me network. Yeah, I'm skeptical. I've never heard of them. What I would do is do your own due diligence and find people that have actually hired them. to see if that helps. Otherwise, you can just create your own LinkedIn profile and then write a book about your insurance startup and maybe 101 ways to save money when buying insurance or whatever it is. And just opine yourself and become a thought leader yourself. And then gut your book chapter by chapter each week on LinkedIn. That will help you network as well. Yeah. Next up, Michelle is saying, or Melanie, I'm sorry. I'm getting confused. I read Dave Chappelle there. Melanie is saying teachers should always lift kids up. Amen. I agree. The only reason why a teacher pulls a person down is because someone has done it to them. Yeah. People become bullied and they bully others. That is why it is so important to be kind to children. Amen. I completely agree. And I think that a great parent is like a great teacher, where the most important thing a parent can teach a child, aside from religious stuff, is building up confidence, right? With confidence, you can do anything. Yeah. And I despise teachers that destroy confidence in their students. Yeah. And parents as well. Yeah. All right. And then Dave Chappelle wrote, I love Dave Chappelle. How could I not with that name? My favorite was the Wrap It Up. Yeah. I'm Rick James. Remember that? Yeah. And he hosted Saturday Night Live as well. I remember that. He was the first person to host Saturday Night Live when Trump got elected. Yeah, and he had a nice message to him towards the end of his monologue there too. Yeah. Okay. And then Melanie is saying, always let kids show that failure is not a bad thing. Amen. We don't yell at kids for coloring outside the lines, right? Yeah. And then you wrote here, making mistakes is a good thing because we can learn from it. Yes, totally. I think failure is cool. And that's the way it is here on the West Coast. You know, it's not shameful to start a company and fail. You're like, hey man, just try again. It's not shameful. It's a cultural thing. It's not an American thing because more than 50% of founders and engineers here in the Bay Area were born overseas. But it is a cultural West Coast thing that I love out here. Failure is cool. Yeah. It's kind of like, speaking of kids and confidence and failure, you know, if with my kids, like each one of them probably fell down 100 times when they were learning how to walk. And after the 100th time, I didn't go to my kids and say, you know what, Andrew, Matthew, and Dylan, maybe this whole walking thing isn't for you. You have to fail and fail fast and fail over and over again if you want to make it. And that's why I have this on my wall. I failed over, and I have to smile because this is going to be the YouTube image this week. This is what YouTubers do, by the way. They point in part of their video so they can make that the image. So here I'll go. I'll point and I'll smile here. So he said, I failed over and over again in my life, which is why I succeed. Yeah. Michael Jordan. And he actually didn't make his high school basketball team either. He didn't care. And if you guys have not watched The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan special on Netflix, a documentary, you got to watch it. And in episode 7 or 8, when he talks about his dad, if you don't have tears in your eyes, you're not a real person. Yeah, you got to, even if you're not a sports fan, you got to watch it. It's genius. I absolutely loved it. Yeah. All right, next up, we got Paul who's saying, hey, Chris, I intend to get into quantitative hedge funds. So what among financial engineering or quantitative finance would be a good degree to get into quantitative analysis? Yeah. I mean, I think you could take if you're in a university, take a mix of finance and comp sci classes. That's what I did. I majored in management information systems in undergrad and then finance in business school. So I would take, again, a combination of computer science courses as well as finance courses. Yeah. And maybe you can do a joint major or a dual degree even. But what's more important than all that educational stuff, to be intellectually honest, is your ability to network. Relationships are always more important than product knowledge. Get my book for free on networking. Go to harounventures.com because if you want to get ahead in life, you have to network aggressively. You need to find mentors, meaning Yodas. and then just find people with similar backgrounds to yours that want to help you. And I outline how to do that in that book I have there. Yeah, your network is your net worth. All right. And then Paul wrote, and thanks for being you. Your Udemy course is helping. Great. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Cool. And then Paul is saying, do you think it's important to learn artificial intelligence, machine learning, since bots are taking over, pardon me, and the job scene won't be the same for 25 years? Yeah. So I think that when people talk about computers taking over, I think they're artificial intelligence and technology is just going to help us and enable us to be much more productive. Yeah. Yeah. And humans have always adapted and we always will, you know. So I remember back in the 80s, there was concern. And I remember there's a movie about this with Michael Keaton called Gung Ho. There was concern that factories are being run by robots. And people were worried about that. And yeah, people retooled and they moved on and found different jobs. Yeah. So I'm pretty positive. I'm not a Luddite. I really do think that technology is an enabler. Yeah. And yeah, I think learning AI machine learning languages, et cetera, can only help you. And when I think longer term about trends, I always ask myself this in business and investments. In 5 years from now, is this product, whatever it is, going to be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? And so when it comes to AI and machine learning, of course, it's going to be more relevant. Yeah. All right. And then Melody wrote here, but if there's someone that encouraged them along the way, meaning teachers, they will be okay with failing. And it helps them in the long run when they are adults. They will learn to cope and then move on. Yeah. 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 And most teachers are amazing. I love teachers, obviously. But my favorite teachers are the ones that give a damn and will help to boost the confidence of their students, especially for students that come, have a crappy set of cards in life. My favorite students are the ones that are poor, smart, and hungry and motivated as hell. I love that. That gets me out of bed in the morning. Yeah. Oops. All right, hold on a second. Next question is from Rodrigo, who's saying, do you think the market will crash soon? Yeah, I don't know. I never think of it that way. I'm just highly unemotional when it comes to business and stocks. If it does, I'll back up the truck like I did in March. I love buying products when they're on sale. Okay, and that's my alarm. So I'm gonna have to wrap this up right now. So for those of you I didn't answer questions for, please just copy your questions and ask me again next week. If you're in my gold or platinum MBA degree program, I'll see you in 15 minutes on Office Hours for MBA degree students. Otherwise, if you subscribe to my vlog, I'll see you tomorrow and every day because I vlog every day at 9 a.m. my time, San Francisco time. God bless you all. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you next Thursday and every Thursday at 8 a.m. Thank you for your time.